What's up, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back. Of course, I am, as always, joined by Rurikhan. How you doing, bro? Welcome to the Frozen Sodium Throne. New name. We literally just settled on it after the first show, but before the second show.
Something like that, because we were gonna need a name. So let me tell you where that name came from. We were talking about it on Discord, and I asked you which ones were your favorite raids ever in World of Warcraft, and you said the wrong answer, unfortunately, because there's only one right answer to that question. That's Ulduar, clearly. I mean, let's just be real. Ulduar has the best raids, right? I mean, you're gonna disagree with me on that?
So it depends on what part of me you're asking. If you're asking the gameplay part of Accolonn, the guy who used to raid, Ulduar absolutely hands down, with one exception, and that is the Arthas fight. I think the Arthas fight was sort of the first time Blizzard had gone above and beyond just sort of one or two mechanics. I mean, that fight was jam-packed with just mechanic after mechanic after mechanic, very complex. You know, tanks had a lot to do. Tanks had literal things that only tanks had to care about. Healers had things that only healers had to care about. So it was a very sort of, I think, complete fight. But if you're asking me in terms of every boss, yes, Ulduar overall, like 90% of the Ulduar bosses were absolutely incredible.
Yes, they were. But anyway, so you said like ICC and Firelands, which I never rated Firelands. Yeah. When was Firelands? Was that Cataclysm?
It was Cataclysm, and
but it wasn't at the start.
I'm trying to remember. I think what was the first? It may have been the first raid.
The first the first raid was Emerald Nightmare and Cataclysm, wasn't it? No. Wait.
No. Emerald Nightmare was Legion.
Was Legion.
I'm gonna have to search this. Firelands. I want to say it was the first raid, but it's too long ago.
It was definitely not Cataclysm. No. It was
it wouldn't. Yeah. Cataclysm.
It was Legion. Was it Legion?
No.
No. Now I'm curious. It's killing me. Firelands
raids. So you had the one where you had to fight the ogre at the end. Okay, so we had Baron Hold, Blackwing Descent, the Bastion of Twilight, Throne of the Four Winds, Firelands, and then Dragon Soul. Those were the raids for Cataclysm.
So Firelands was like Cataclysm.
Second to last.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Firelands was second to last. It was the raid that killed so many guilds. And also, it was the first time Blizzard had ever tried to do this real open world sort of raid where every single boss is in the same shared space. So when you're fighting one of the bosses, you can actually look over there and you see the other bosses over there. And it's like, whoa. So it was really, really cool. It was an awesome fight.
That raid also spawned a meme that I still use to this day on a lot of my videos, because like even in the main channel, whenever I'm playing like either Dark Souls or Monster Hunter or something like that, and I will either mistime a parry and I'll do the thing too soon, I'll always go like 2 shoes executus, and a lot of people don't get that reference. Like, what? 2 shoes what does that mean? Like,
I don't even know.
You don't know what that is?
No. What is that?
It's because, like, you know, when you did Molten Core, right? And Executus wakes up Ragnaros. He goes, too soon, Ragnaros. Not Ragnaros, too soon, Executus. Too soon, Executus, too soon. Because he hadn't gathered enough power, right?
So here's the thing, right? Literally just going back to the Cataclysm raids. I'm so bad with names and like memory. So when you just brought that up, it took me a second to go, okay, where the fuck are we now? Oh, I remember that. But remembering the voice line as well, it's like, dude, I don't even remember that.
So
but it sounds familiar. So
the reason I remember that is because I farmed for Thunder Fury for ages. So I did that thing. So I knew the too soon Executus, right? And so what happened was when Firelands came out and they actually gave Ragnaros feet, people changing. They were like, 2 shoes, Executus, 2 shoes for his feet. So I always use that.
I never played, so I don't really play classic WoW. I played it to like level 35 or something like that.
Vanilla,
or vanilla, right? But if we go back to like the first when it was actually current, I mean, I started at the tail end of classic or of World of Warcraft at the time. No extra names. I started right at the end of that, and I never raided in the original World of Warcraft.
Me neither.
Because I wasn't even max level then. And like I said, I didn't really go back to play classic or vanilla. I don't know why. But going back to it, I was like, sure, it's nostalgic, but there's so many things that isn't good about the game. Yeah. Like, you can just see that it's very dated.
I want to bring up the subject of classic later in the podcast, but just to clear things up is like, I didn't actually grind Thunder Fury in vanilla. I was like level 80 and just blowing up Molten Core, basically. Just going in there, blowing up Molten Core and hoping for the shackles of the Windseeker until I eventually got them. And I got Thunder Fury, Blessed Blade of the Windseeker. Yay!
I think the only thing I ever went back to farm, I'm trying to remember now, because as a warlock, we didn't really have any cool weapons until like Cataclysm, where in Firelands we got our legendary weapon, and I got it when it was current at the time, so I didn't have to go back for that. I'm trying to remember. I don't know. See, I don't care about transmogs. I think that's why. Yeah. Because I've never gone back. I know so many of my friends who would go back to Wrath to farm out Shadow Fury, right? Or Shadowmourne, not Shadow Fury.
Okay, yeah. When you said Shadow Fury, I was like, what is that?
No. Farming out Shadowmourne and going back to Classic and farming Thunder Fury and shit like that. Whereas for me, I've always sort of been, when I go back for story. So I will run into a raid, clear the entire raid, and then I will sort of run around in every single boss room, and I'll be like,
see
okay,
the stuff. Yeah.
Is there any clues here? Because WoW does sort of, they used to. They don't do that as much anymore, but they used to do something very similar to Elden Ring or the Dark Souls games, where, yes, they have the dialogue, and the story is in the dialogue, but the world also has its own secret stories that it's telling, you know? Like, items will have certain descriptions that you need to pay attention to, or in a boss room, there might be a thing that isn't supposed to be there, and you're like, wait, why is this thing here? And then maybe that's a thing that means something later on.
Didn't, like, Olderman, I think, had something about the discs of Norganon or whatever the hell it was, and you just doing the dungeon wouldn't give you that information. You had to do some kind of special interaction, and then one of the Titans or whatever would show up. Yeah, I remember stuff like that. They used to do things like that, I think.
Those are the things that I find fun, right?
Yeah.
Running around in the old world and looking for clues that maybe I've missed. And there's not many clues left, although Blizzard maintains that there is about 5 or 6 secrets all the way back in Classic or Vanilla that people still haven't found. So Blizzard maintains that there's about 5 or 6 secrets in Vanilla that is in the game. It's still there. They have not removed them. People have just not found them yet.
All of that fishing, and people still haven't found the, what's it called again? I forget, the Paladin Sword, the Ashbringer, whatever. People were fishing, trying to see if they could fish up the Ashbringer. That was some funny stuff.
It's weird. It's weird shit, but I love that. And I sort of, that's one of the things that I'm really looking forward to in Dragonflight. Because Ian said in one of the interviews, they're now putting together an entire team only on the world. So a team that's their only job is to design content for the world. And I really hope that they do things like secret little entrances or secret caves, you know, tucked away, maybe underwater, that the water is completely useless and no one cares about the water. But if you dive into the water, of course, this will be water that you can't walk on, but you'll dive into this water and then you'll like find this little secret cave entrance. And there's nothing in the cave other than maybe some lore spoilers or some book that maybe tells a story of an adventurer that died there after a flash flood or whatever the fucking case might be. Stuff like that is what I'm really hoping for.
But those things are still important for sure. Having that little extra flavor to the world, and particularly when it comes to World of Warcraft, because I feel like it's been trying to compete in the arena of 14 in a lot of ways. But before we get to that, let me just finalize my thought, because it does seem that we have a serious problem with me finishing my points, because I was talking about the origin of the frozen sodium throne.
That's correct. Yeah. And we somehow
ended up
spoke about everything else.
This is fantastic. But it's like, so at the end of the day, because you liked ICC and then you suggested something involving salt, I was like, okay, so we can just do frozen sodium throne, because I like the idea of being salty and whatnot. So that works.
Yeah.
But that's the point.
The salt factory.
That's the point for that. But continuing with this discussion, with this very natural segue that we just got into, it's like it does feel like World of Warcraft in the past couple of expansions has definitely been trying to compete in the same arena as 14, when it shouldn't, because it never did that, and its players do not resonate as well with that type of storytelling.
Oh yeah, I mean, so I played while we were streaming last night on Twitch. You actually came in to say hello.
Yeah.
While we were playing Final Fantasy XIV, something really became clear to me. As I'm sitting there playing the game, I think almost 45 minutes of uninterrupted cutscenes. Just cutscene. Actually, I shouldn't say uninterrupted, because they do get interrupted with handing in the quest and then getting a new quest that immediately starts another cutscene.
And then sometimes a scripted combat sequence or something like that. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, which is actually really cool. So the way they break these up is oftentimes, so for example, last night, we're finishing 4.2, and as we're finishing 4.2, you get that sort of quote unquote dungeon fight where the NPCs are your party members, and you're fighting Lakshmi for the second time as she's trying to
I remember.
enthrall your friends, and you have to run around catching the balls, and then you have to take her down. So it's like a really cool combat sequence, and it really does challenge the player a little bit. You have to figure out what to do and do it correctly. But most of the time, the game is cutscenes into more cutscenes, because the game is about that story and the progression of said story. You do that in WoW, you're going to lose so many players, because that's not what the WoW audience wants.
Yeah, a lot of people, when they're in World of Warcraft, they even play it as like they're watching something on Netflix and they're just grinding something on the side. It's just a matter of, this is not necessarily a bad thing. There's plenty of games that I do this for, including even, for instance, like Monster Hunter or Elden Ring. Like the first playthrough that I'll do of those games, I'm like fully engaged, fully immersed, like I'm in there. But then when I'm just like doing stuff where I'm like, okay, I need to grind this thing, I'm gonna go just grind something for something special that I want to do. I'm like, sure, I'll put on a podcast or something. Like for instance, when you were streaming yesterday, I was like doing hunts in Monster Hunter and watching the stream, because I finished the game. Right now, I'm just crafting sets and doing stuff like that. So it's like it's whatever. Yeah, you're just grinding stuff away, and it's good.
Oh yeah,
there's good stuff like that. The problem with World of Warcraft, I feel in the latest, in the last expansions, is that it doesn't feel rewarding, because they're trying to grab your attention full force, and you're just I don't want to engage in this because you're forcing me to. The reason I stopped playing Shadowlands is because they wanted me to do 20 to 30 hours of chores in order for me to engage in the things I want to do, which when I tell you those things were Mythic Plus and raiding. That's what I actually wanted to do. So it's like, you got people that complain about Mythic Plus grinding, and I'm just like, no, that's actually fun for me. I want to grind Mythic Plus. What I don't want to do is all this other nonsense that you wanted me to do.
You see, that's the thing. So sort of to link up with you, one of the most popular add-ons out there is actually quest skippers. And when I say quest skippers, what I mean is quest guides. So the add-on literally skips all the dialogue. It literally opens the dialogue box, accepts the quest, and closes the dialogue box so quick that you often don't even see it, right? So no one gives a fuck really about the story of World of Warcraft.
I wouldn't say no one, but a large majority. I think that there are people that do.
Yeah. I mean, I'm one of the people that actually do read every single one of the quests, right? But when I say no one, I mean the majority of players. Yeah. The majority of players play World of Warcraft. I need to get to max level because that's where the game starts.
Yeah.
The game is going to start as soon as I hit max level. That's why you have add-ons that literally skip cutscenes, skip quests, skip everything. I just need to get to max level as quickly as possible. So if WoW, you're correct in that World of Warcraft is trying to be more narrative-driven, but they're also trying to be cognizant of the fact that a very large majority of their player base doesn't care about the narrative of the game. And so it sort of falls in this gray area where it's not narrative enough to really tell the story in the game, but it's almost too narrative for what the majority of players actually want. So in something that became really tedious during my Shadowlands playthrough, with the amount of times that you're sort of standing there with no ability to actually quit out of the cutscene, because it's not a cutscene. It's literally two players, two NPCs speaking to one another, and you're sort of having to watch, right? And it's kind of like, wait, but this is not the narrative experience that I'm looking for, because I'm not a part of this conversation. I'm just watching a conversation between two people. Basically, this is boring, but I know why you want to do it, because you really want the story to shine through. It's like, well, actually, you have to make a choice. If you want the story to shine through, go full-blown Final Fantasy and be prepared to lose a lot of your player base.
I agree.
Or go back to what WoW used to be, which is some of the story in the dialogue and sort of, well, say dialogue, let's say the quest text, right? Yeah. Some of the story in the quest text, most of the story just in the world. You know, the world is its own sort of story. And just by being in the world, you will get a sense of what the fuck is going on here. Right?
Just like you were talking about, someone diving into the water and in a cave and finding a book somewhere, which is something that a majority of the player base is not going to engage in. But the few players that do care about the story, they will actively seek those things out. And then you don't have to make everything, okay, you need to understand what's happening over here and understand what's happening over here and whatnot. There's just like a subplot. Final Fantasy also does this to a lot of extent. So like, for instance, if you go into Eureka, that's its own plot completely.
I mean, to still go there.
Yeah, it's like it's still connected to the world, but it's its own thing. And if you never experience it, it's fine. You don't have to.
Yeah.
Very much like the way that they started doing alliance raids. It's a subplot. It's important to the story. But ultimately, someone that just beelines the MSQ, they'll understand the story. They don't need to understand this extra stuff. It's just more stuff there if you want to.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I can't comment on all of the raids because I've only the only two raids I've done so far was Coils of Bahamut.
It's a good thing you did that one. Yes, it is.
And Alexander in Heavensward, right? I'm now probably going to start this week or next week doing the actual Stormblood raid. As soon as I'm done with 4.3,
so good.
Is when we'll start the Stormblood raid. What was interesting is that Alexander, for example, is
completely side story. Yes,
its own story. It has nothing to do with the main storyline of Heavensward, other than having hooks to the main storyline. So it will sort of be like, you remember this thing you did during the MSQ? Yeah, this actually, like, Alexander has some influence over that. You don't need to do Alexander in order to understand what you did there. It's its own story. And what I loved about Alexander is how it's a complete time travel madness thing. So it sort of explains why you can keep doing it over and over and over again, because it is a time loop that just continuously happens.
Paradox, yeah. But the reasoning why, at least the way that I feel about it and the way that most people kind of like explain it, is the reason they did it like that in 14 was because they put a lot of story into Coils of Bahamut, a lot of story that should have been experienced with MSQ. Like if you just do MSQ and don't do Coils, you're missing out. You're missing out massively. Like, it's insane the amount of information you're missing out, which is why I always tell people, if you can't find people to run you through coils, then watch a YouTube video on it so that you understand what happens in coils, because it's important. But, you know, after that, they were just like, no, raids need to be their own separate thing, so that people that want to enjoy the MSQ, they can enjoy it, and people that want to enjoy the extra stuff and do the raids, they can enjoy that too, and it's a separate story that somehow links into the main narrative, but is not essential for understanding it. And I think that is one thing that they do really well, because that way it's like, if you're a raider, you don't have to worry about story, you don't have to worry about attunements. It's like, you can skip all that if you want to. You just skip the MSQ, skip everything, go to raids, go do the thing that you want. It's not mandatory for you to do all these other things. Whereas World of Warcraft kind of goes the other way. It forces you to do all the things that maybe you don't want to do. And then the people that do want to do those things, they end up being forced as well. And nobody wants to be forced to do something, because it's a video game. You just want to do it if you want to, and that's it.
I mean, the way I describe it, and I 100% agree with everything you just said, because the way I've always described it is, it's this sort of hyper-efficiency game design model, right? Where the idea is, how much dev time was spent on a specific activity, and then how many players are actually going to engage in this activity. And if there is no equilibrium, if there is no sort of relationship between 1,000 hours is being spent on this, you know, developing this activity, and we don't have 100% of the player base actually engaging in this activity, it's a failure. So everything that is designed is also then forcibly implemented into the game. So you must do everything, otherwise we wasted time designing something. And it's kind of like, literally what Final Fantasy does is the opposite of that. Final Fantasy says, we're going to design this, and most likely only like 2 or 3% of the player base may enjoy this. But that's 2 or 3% of the player base that now have found a reason to play our game, because maybe they don't enjoy any of the other things. And sort of, that's the whole point. So people really misunderstand what. So you have 2 types of video games, right? Of MMOs specifically. You have sandbox MMOs, and then you have theme park MMOs. Sandbox MMOs is where the tools to create activities is given to the player base, right? And the world is sort of like an open canvas where players can do whatever they want, because that's the sandbox element. And everything is built around this idea of building your own fun. Theme park MMOs, of which Final Fantasy and World of Warcraft falls into that subgenre of MMO, is we build rides. So we build the fun for you, and you then get to choose what fun you want to partake in. Final Fantasy literally sticks to that subgenre. We'll build the rides, and you get to choose the rides that you want to go on. WoW has this weird interconnective system where they're like, oh, you want to go on the roller coaster? Well, before you do that, we need to go on the teacups twice, then the swings, then the bumper cars, and then you can go once on the roller coaster, but then you have to fuck right back to the teacups before you can go on the roller coaster again.
Dude, that's the best analogy I've ever heard for this. That's great. Yeah, it's exactly like that. Keep going.
It's sort of like, well, I just want to do the roller coaster. Like, I literally came here today for that fucking thing.
Yeah.
Why do I need to go on the teacups? This is boring. I want to be on the thing that goes loopy-loop, you know? And they're like, well, no, actually, you have to go on the teacups and the swings first. And if you had any real-life theme park that worked that way, no one would go.
Yeah.
Right? People would just be like, well, fuck that. I don't want to go on your teacups. Your teacups are for children, and I want to go on big boy rides.
And I'm gonna
Blizzard doesn't play this way.
I'm gonna blow your mind, because you're giving the example of Final Fantasy XIV. I'm gonna give you an example of another game that does the same thing.
Okay.
Where they build the rides and they don't give a crap if you go on it. And this is actually a mostly single player game. You're familiar with it. Elden Ring. Elden Ring builds their world just like that, which is, here's the world. And then there's like a critical path, which they don't even push you towards the critical path. They'll tell you, they'll hint to you. And there's like whenever you rest at a site of grace, there's like a little yellow light that shows you the direction of your supposedly next critical path. But they don't like push you. They're like, listen, here's where you should go if you want to advance the story. But you go do you. And it's not even like a GPS tracker or anything. It's like every time they try that grace, you see a faint yellow light aiming you towards what is supposedly going to be your next objective. You open up the map, you can see the direction that light is going, but it's not like, it doesn't tell you the light ends here. No, it's like, in this general direction, you'll find something.
There might be something. There might be something that you want to enjoy.
And the thing is, there are entire zones in this game, like I'm talking upwards of potentially 30 hours of content, that you can straight up miss. The hardest boss in the game, you can straight up miss it.
Isn't that Melinda or
Melania? You can straight up miss. You can straight up miss Melania entirely. If
I see articles of Melania everywhere, and people like, oh my god, don't go near her. So that's sort of the only thing I know.
To give you an idea, I'm gonna be super vague to avoid spoilers and anything. But to give you an idea, in order to find Melania, you have to go to this place where there's a village. There's plenty of villages in the game, so nobody's gonna know exactly which village it is, right? And in that village, there's a dude who is hidden in a very specific spot inside another object that I'm not going to tell you what object it is. He's hidden there.
Okay.
And if you don't interact, if you don't find him, you already missed out on it. Like, you can't get to Melania without finding that one dude that is hiding inside an object in a village somewhere in this massive map. If, however, you do find him, he gives you one half of the puzzle, after which you can take this to another NPC. It doesn't tell you that you're supposed to take it to the NPC. It just, if you run into this other NPC, you talk to him, the NPC tells you, you need to find this woman who is in this general vicinity. And then you go and you find her, and then she joins you and tells you where you can potentially find the other half of the puzzle. Doesn't tell you where it is, where you can potentially find it. And after you do this, you can then go to a special place that triggers an elevator that takes you to a secret area. And after you get to that secret area, there's another village with another puzzle that you need to solve. And after that, you can find the teleport that takes you to this massive zone where if you go all the way to the end of it, then you'll find Malay. And it's like, this is a completely optional thing. There's going to be tons of players that will finish Elden Ring, will never even find it. And the developers are perfectly comfortable with that because they're like, this game is built on the assumption that if you really like it, you'll eventually replay it, you'll look into the community, and you will go and find these secrets that we put out into the world.
Yeah. You see, this is the thing. This is why just from what I've read, so I haven't even played Elden Ring yet. And for people that sort of wondering why isn't he playing Elden Ring, I play most games that I play on normal mode just to see the story. So I'm afraid, I'm a little scared to go into this game that everyone says is like it hands you
gross
your ass. I'm a little scared,
exaggeration.
Yeah, I know, but it is sort of, the fear exists right now where I'm just sort of like, I'm not sure how ready I am to make a complete fool of myself on stream, playing this and everyone going, oh, lol, this guy doesn't know what the fuck he's doing. Pro gamer, everyone. Even though I make a fool of myself every day on Final Fantasy anyways. So I'm a little bit hesitant, but what I love reading about the game is this idea of the open world should exist as a place to explore.
Yeah.
And that means don't tell people, by the way, if you go to this place, this is what you'll get there. Because that is no longer, it's sort of like Ubisoft open world games, where you open the map and it is just filled with fucking icons.
It's the UX, man. It's the user experience. They're concerned about your user experience.
Yeah. They don't want you to be in the game and sort of be like, wait, what am I supposed to do now? And it's kind of like, well, isn't that the whole point of an open world game?
Yeah.
What am I supposed to do now? I don't know. Fucking choose a direction and run until you find something that looks cool and interesting and that you want to do. And that's the whole point of an open world game.
I think it was, I'm not sure if it was Bellilar or Matt. I think it was Matt from Bellilar's podcast. He was talking about it, that he did like some kind of an analysis. It might have been somebody else. I'm sorry, I'm spacing out. But I've seen this in the video where somebody made an analysis where they were saying that essentially in Elden Ring, If you go and you just move in a certain direction for anywhere between 20 to 40 seconds, you'll find something interesting. Right?
Yeah.
In any kind of direction, 20 for 40 seconds, you'll find like either a strange enemy, you'll find a cave, you'll find, a quest line, something in any direction that you go every 30 to 40 seconds, which is, again, just lets you go and explore. And it's something that a lot of games are not comfortable doing because they're scared. I was like, but they're going to miss out on this amazing quest that we develop. And it's like, yeah, but if they like the game enough, they'll come back and they'll eventually do it. You have to trust your community to solve the game eventually. Because that was always the basis of Souls games. And I feel like this was also the basis of WoW Vanilla. There was a sense of community in which people would be like, oh, dude, have you ever heard about this quest line like in friggin' South Shores? My God, this crazy event happened and there's this whole thing. And a lot of people are like, oh, wow, I've never been there. That's cool. I need to go check that out. And it's
they actually, sorry, yeah.
I was going to say, this has been something in the Souls franchise since forever. Since the beginning, everybody does it. It's even built into the game because people can leave messages down, which can either be trolly, as in like, oh, if you jump, there's a treasure, something like that. And sometimes there'll be a treasure, sometimes there'll be a monster, sometimes there'll be a death drop. It is what it is.
Wait, so those raid messages on the floor in Dark Souls, that's from players?
No, the red messages, if there's a red message, it'll usually be someone who's challenging you for a duel. So you can just bring up another player and you can fight. So there's
like raid on the floor.
Bloodstains.
There's like these raid letters. Bloodstains.
No, bloodstains. The bloodstains indicate somebody died here. And you can click on them and it shows you how they died. It doesn't show the monster. You just see the animations of the character before they died. So might see them fall. You might see them get hit by something. You don't know what. And you see them die, right?
Oh, that's what that fucking was. I thought that was my spirit somehow doing things that I haven't done before. Like some sort of weird forward-thinking fucking thing. As I said, I played Dark Souls for about 15 minutes.
Yes.
Got smashed by 2 skeletons, and I was like, yeah, fuck that. Like, Jesus, these are NPCs, normal ones, and they're fucking kicking my ass. What the hell? Right? Like, I was just like, fuck that, I'm out. But I need to get into those games. I know I have to. Because they take all of my other boxes, which is what you literally just said. And just to sort of link with you with the character, or the classic WoW, Vanilla WoW, the developers of Vanilla WoW actually said their quests wasn't quests. It was just to give players an indication of where they could go next to level.
See?
That was that.
That's just like, if you think about what I just said about Sites of Grace, that's kind of like the idea behind World of Warcraft vanilla questing. It's like, hey, in that direction, more adventure. It's just like, hey, go do whatever you want.
The mobs here is a little bit low for you to keep farming and leveling up on. But if you wanted mobs that you could actually level up on, then you could go southwest. And then if you're completely fucking moronic like me, you don't know where southwest is. So you're just sort of going, wait, that's north, that's south. Obviously, south is the opposite of north. So pick a direction of the remaining 2 and just go there. And hopefully that's where you need to go. Sometimes you're right. Sometimes you're right. You're right about 50% of the time.
So you see, it's the way that I learned East and West is actually a very Portuguese thing. So East, not East. To my right, I have Spain, which Spain in Portuguese is Espanha. East, right? East, this way, to the right. West, ocean, USA. There you go. That's what I'm West, East, done.
I literally learned it the same way.
Yeah.
Like, I now know it, and I didn't know it before, but the only way I could know it is from South Africa, looking up into the world, right?
Yeah.
I look up into the world, and I'm sort of going, okay, East will be on my right-hand side, because that is where
Japan is.
China and all those places are, and America is on my left-hand side, so that is going to be West, because that is the West. And that's sort of how I orient myself in Africa. Whenever I look at a map, I go, okay, if I go right here, I'm going to go east. If I go left, I'm going to go west.
See, for the Americans, it's going to be more complicated, because west for them actually goes towards what is denominated east.
Yeah, supposed to be. They just sort of have to go where I am is west and everything else is east. From
east. All around us is east. We are the west.
Yeah, we are the west. Everyone else is in the east. I mean, but I love the idea of that, and I wish WoW would go back to that, just to sort of bring it back to WoW. Because Final Fantasy does another thing, sort of in their own unique way. They do something similar. So very oftentimes you'll find a quest that is blue. Now, blue quests are not important quests for the main storyline. You don't have to do a blue quest in order to unlock the main storyline. The blue quests denominate either a dungeon or a trial series or a raid series, or just sometimes the
game
beginning
functionality
of a beast tribe quest. So
sometimes
you do the one blue quest and it will open beast tribes for you.
Sometimes it can be a game functionality as well. So like, for instance, the quest to unlock your personal hairdresser, that's a blue quest. There's plenty of game functionality that gets unlocked like that as well.
Oh, yeah. Almost all blue quests will unlock something. It depends on the kind of blue quest. But then they also have this, and again, you have to explore in order to see this. It's not actually told to you. Because there's 3 different colors. Well, there's more, but there's 3 main colors of quests. There's the brown gold quest. Then there's the sort of blue quests. And then there's the, I guess, navy dark blue gray, almost with a gold border around it. That's like the main storyline, right? That's the storyline that you need to play in order to get to max level.
The meteor quests that looks like the symbol is a meteor. Yes.
yes. Those are the quests that's the most important quests. Yeah. But even then, if you go to the gold quests, which is complete side quests, none of them will ever be voice acted. There, you can find completely useless side quests that basically just send you to kill a couple of things and come back. Or you get gold quests that have a picture when you click on the NPC that gives you the quest. If there's a picture, it means that this side story actually opens up into a bigger side story, and there's actually something interesting that's going to be seen here. So again, it sort of encourages you to explore without locking you into exploration. It's not saying you have to, but if you want to, there is a lot that you have yet to unlock within the game that we're not just going to unlock for you, because we don't feel like you have to do every single quest in the zone. There are quests that it's important to us that you do those to understand the story, but then for the more zone-specific stories, these we put as optional. You can or you don't have to. It's really up to you what you do here. WoW used to be like that in its own way. And this is sort of whenever I say that Final Fantasy does this and WoW can really learn, people will misunderstand what I say. People will always be like, oh my God, you just want WoW to become a copy of Final Fantasy. And it's like, no. I want WoW to apply their own unique twist and spin to it that makes it WoW.
People seem to forget that Blizzard's talent, so to speak, was actually grabbing other people's ideas and improving on them.
Yep.
Like Diablo is basically Blizzard's take on Rogue. Warcraft was Blizzard's take on what? Command and Conquer, maybe? I don't remember which one of those came first, but there was always like something like Overwatch is Blizzard's take on Team Fortress 2, so on and so forth. World of Warcraft is their take on EverQuest. Yeah.
Well, I mean, so for people who don't know, Warcraft actually has its origins in Warhammer. Blizzard really wanted to make. So World of Warcraft was originally meant to be World of Warhammer.
I mean, just look at, for instance, what's his name? Chris Metzen. Chris Metzen now where is he? He left Blizzard. He created something called War Chief Gaming, where he essentially builds his own version of Warhammer. literally that. Chris Metzen is a massive Warhammer fan. The only reason it's not called World of Warhammer is because, first and foremost, what's their name? The company that runs Games
Warhammer.
Workshop
wanted $1 million a year. This was back in the day, right? We're talking 2004, 2003.
It's interesting.
They wanted $1 million a year.
It's interesting that nowadays it's like, I could grab whatever I have in my pockets right now and just go like, hey, I want to make a Warhammer game. And like, hey, it's great, man. Awesome. You want some assets? Because like everybody's making Warhammer games, like these cheap mobile pieces of trash all over. It's disgusting, dude.
See, back in the day, Blizzard wanted it. Blizzard was actually prepared to pay it. And Games Workshop decided to go with EA. Actually, not EA, another company that eventually got picked up by EA. The EA ruined that fucking game, right? With all of their microtransactions and their push for more content, more fast.
Warhammer,
and
Age
World
of Reckoning.
Warcraft. Yeah, and World of Warcraft exploded, right? So Games Workshop have effectively been trying to catch back up because they chose the wrong person to go with. At the time, they thought that this other company had better ideas. And to be fair, before that company got acquired by EA, I believe that's the history of it. Before that company got acquired by EA, Warhammer Online was actually a good game. People were really fucking enjoying it. And then when EA took over,
it wasn't live yet, because I think by the time they published, then they were owned by EA. I mean, this was a long time, but I do seem to remember that, like, the studio working on Warhammer Age of Reckoning, because I followed the development of that for a while. They had like these really ambitious ideas and all of the classes that were going to be in it, because I actually played, I don't play it right now, tabletop Warhammer. So I was like super into that stuff. I was like, dude, this is going to be awesome. It's going to be amazing. And they had amazing dwarven models. I'm a sucker for dwarves, right? So it's like they had all of these plans, but then they get to EA, and what does EA do? They're just like, yeah, game needs to come out next year. They're like, that's not, no, it comes out next year. Deal with it.
Yeah.
Sort it out.
So, I mean, people need to, so when I say EA ruined it, even though EA rushed the launch, the game was still doing well. At launch, people were actually enjoying it. People were actually finding it really fun. And the company was really quick at trying to patch the mistakes, trying to bring more content into the game. They were really doing a good job. It was, I think, after a few years, maybe 3 or 4 years, EA started to really fucking let its tentacles into that company, and they were like forcing just stupid shit into the game.
They were micromanaging, basically.
Exactly. And this eventually led to players just going, well, fuck this game, dude. I don't want to play this. It's just constantly doing the things that we don't want it to do, because EA is only thinking money. How much money can we make of this? And, pushing cash shop items, pushing DLCs. And it's kind of like they ruined what could have been a decent game if they just allowed it to breathe. Now, this is where World of Warcraft found its origins. But if you go into the greater World of Warcraft, you find that World of Warcraft is actually scumbags when it comes to stealing things from other fucking companies and then implementing it into their game. And here is what makes it brilliant, making it better than what the other people did it. So one of most people's favorite battlegrounds is Temple of the Temple of Kotmugo, I think, or Kotmugo. I can't remember the fucking name of the temple. You know, the one with the orbs that you have to get into the center, hold all the orbs, and you first person to get all the points.
No idea.
They win.
Sounds like a Mists of Pandaria thing, maybe, because I didn't play that one.
It came out of Mists of Pandaria, but it is this idea. There's 4 orbs in the 4 different corners of the arena. You pick up the orb, and then you go to the center. The orb will increase your size, increase your damage, but also increase your damage taken. So you eventually just get one shot at enough stacks.
I remember that. Yeah, I remember that one. Yes. It's in like a garden type thing, right? Like a garden thing. Yes. Yeah. I've done that one. Yeah.
I'm pretty sure the viewers will be able to tell us what dungeon, what battleground that is. That battleground is a direct steal from Rift. And Rift's first battleground. So when Rift came out, obviously everyone does the same old WoW killer. Dude. It does not live up to the name of WoW killer.
A little bit of trivia. Back in the day when Rift came out, I was still working for TGN. And I firmly believe, I could be wrong, I firmly believe that I was the first person to convince Tali to show up on camera. Because me and Tali did something called the Rift Show, because Tali was also on TGN back then. He was way smaller. So
shit.
So it's like we used to do this thing called the Rift Show, where we talk about Rift because we were both playing it. So yeah, it's funny
you
brought
played a little
up
of Rift. I mean, I played Rift, and I thought that Rift had some really good ideas executed really poorly.
Yeah.
But it had some great ideas. So, for example, their talent trees were incredibly complex and not Path of Exile complex, but
you had like multi-classing, right? If I remember correctly.
Yes,
yeah,
exactly. You could multi-class, but there was like, so the talent trees were up and also down. So down would be, I believe, at the time it was sort of hyper specialization stuff. And then up was more just the general warlock specialization stuff. So you could sort of choose, but then you could also sort of spec into completely different things if that was really the thing that you wanted to do. It was a mess for the most part, the way in which they tried, because this was one of those MMOs that still tried to copy WoW almost pound to pound with their faction system that completely failed because they managed to not make either of the factions interesting.
They had like 3 factions, right?
At the time I played it, I think they had 2. It was definitely just 2 because the screen had 2. It was sort of the light and the dark side, right? One was red and the other one was white, I think. Which didn't really work because they didn't manage to make either of the factions really interesting. So you basically just picked whatever you wanted, right? Yeah. And then started playing the game. But the dungeon or the battleground that they had there was sort of, it was unique, and it was actually something that most people loved. Like one of the few things most people loved about the game was this idea of you pick up this orb and then you have to hold the orb and your team has to heal you because the orb will constantly do damage to you. The problem was the battleground was completely broken. So anyone who got the orb first ran up this little mountain path right to the top of the mountain. When you're standing there, you're out of line of sight, so people can't shoot you from upstairs. They have to run on this little narrow path, so everyone just throw their AoE on the path, and by the time they get through the AoE, they're dead, right? So basically, whoever got there first won. And if you drop the orb would just drop next to you. So players would just go, okay, I'm taking far too much damage, and I'll drop the orb. Yeah. Blizzard took that idea, and they said, okay, here's the weaknesses of that battleground. Here's its strengths. So let's build something that eliminates all of the weaknesses, but keeps all of the strengths. And now you have the Temple Battleground that works really well. People really enjoy it. There's multiple occasions where Blizzard borrows from other companies and makes it better. And this is what we mean when we look at other MMOs and say, hey, look at what Final Fantasy is doing and don't copy that. Because Final Fantasy does what works in Final Fantasy. Yeah. But if it works in Final Fantasy, is there a way that this could also work in WoW in a different format? That's sort of, I think, what most people are looking for.
Because the interesting thing is also, if you look back and you watch the no-clip documentaries, a lot of the things that Final Fantasy implemented also came from World of Warcraft. It's like Yoshi P himself said he took massive inspiration in World of Warcraft. Like, he actually forced some of the developers to basically, no, you guys have to play World of Warcraft so that you understand what we're trying to achieve here. You have to understand what is like the current market standard if we are to improve on the stuff that we're doing and build our own thing.
They still do that, by the way. Every single developer that works for Square Enix is forced to play almost every single game there is. At least the sort of, like, you get choices. You don't have to, like, the company doesn't come to you and say, you'll play this, and this the next week. No, you can play games.
What I want to bring up, I want to bring up real quick is like the distinction between Square Enix and Creative Business Unit 3.
Oh, yeah.
I like to distinguish those things very much, like whenever I'm talking about Monster Hunter, I'm like, I'm not talking about Capcom. I'm talking about the Monster Hunter team. Because, like, nowadays you have publishers, and among those publishers you have varying degrees of teams that are either pro-consumer, or in the case of Square Enix, for instance, you have the people that developed Chocobo GP, which is the goddamn travesty. That's why I don't like associating it directly. But Creative Business Unit 3 people, they will have to play other games,
They have to play other games, and I believe the only thing that they have to do is they have to tell Yoshi P what games they've played, what lessons they've taken from those games. So it's sort of like part of their discussion. Another person that does this, and this seems to be a very Asian thing, is Hideo Kojima. I don't know if you know who that is. You should know who that is. Yeah.
Come on.
I was just sort of wondering because a lot of people don't. A lot of people know all these games.
No.
Like a lot of people know Metal Gear Solid.
You're talking about your typical World of Warcraft players. I play other games. I know Hideo Kojima.
True. But I guess for people in chat that might
he's the guy who made Metal Gear Solid.
Metal Gear Solid, Death Stranding.
Yeah.
You know, he's like the most fucked up, beautiful mind you've ever seen in your life in video games, basically, is this guy. But he on Twitter will constantly be like, so I just watched this movie and this movie at work, right? Basically for work.
Yeah.
And then I played this game and this game for work. So they're exploring consistently other forms of media, other games to find the magic that those games have, that those movies might have, and how that can be implemented into their own games, into their own unique twist on something, right? And if you don't do that, so I follow quite a few Blizzard employees over on Twitter, also on Instagram. I like to keep up with these people. I haven't seen a single one of them speak about the games that they play, which is what gamers do. You know, on Twitter, you'd be like, oh my God, I just played this game. It's really fucking cool. Never. The Blizzard employees, the only times you see them out in force on Twitter or Instagram is when they're covering some political bullshit. Or talking about how Activision Blizzard is a useless company because they're XYZ. And it's like, where's the gamers in this company? Where's the people that actually plays video games?
And it is important to have them before people are like, well, you don't, because you often see this argument is like, you don't need to be a gamer to develop games. It's like, you don't, but you need to have a certain amount of gamers in your team, because if you think about it, the success that Blizzard had back in the day, it was because they were making video games that they wanted to play. They've said this repeatedly in interviews, and we can talk about, oh yeah, but there were also all these people abusing. It's like, yes, you're right, you're 1,000% correct, but the reason the games were successful, the reason World of Warcraft was successful, the reason Warcraft itself was successful, and all the other franchises they developed is because they were playing these games and they were saying to themselves, we can do this better, and then they did it. I mean, unfortunately, now they don't.
Yeah.
Which is the problem.
But this is where I don't agree with people that say you don't have to be a video gamer to develop video games. That's kind of like saying you don't have to be an artist to paint. It's like, no, you literally have to be an artist to paint. I could paint. It's going to look like ass and no one's going to buy it because I'm not an artist. It's as simple as that. It's like saying you don't have to be a good singer to sing. It's like, true, but you'll never sell anything. You'll never be a professional singer if you can't fucking hold a note.
Man, auto-tune can do some real magic nowadays, man. I don't know what you're talking about.
But to be fair, though, when I'm talking about real artists, I always sort of look towards the metal rock, alternative rock scene, because it feels like that's where the real artists still kind of exist. Yeah. I know there's people that's going to be like techno and all that shit, and sure, that is definitely a genre that some people like. I don't.
Not your style, I can tell.
Yeah, I prefer metal, I prefer rock, I prefer alternative rock, things like that. But I'm talking about true artistry. If you want to make a video game, because you have to think about this, video games is art, right? It's art. If you're not actively a video gamer, how would you ever know how to actually design this piece of art?
Yeah, like to give you an idea, because I followed the development of Anthem extremely closely. I'm one of the few people that really enjoyed the gameplay of Anthem. Like, I thought, everything around the gameplay was ass because they completely destroyed that game, right? But the actual gameplay of it, the moment flying, dropping on enemies, combos and all, it was amazing. It was really cool.
Yeah.
And so I followed the development of that game, and it, after all of the articles that came out from Jason Schreier, stuff like that, and it was revealed that basically people would come into the studio and they'd be like, oh, by the way, Destiny 2 is doing this. And the leaders should be like, We don't care what Destiny 2 is doing. We're doing this thing. It's way better. So they would be developing in a bubble instead of being aware of what the market was doing. And that's why that game, never went anywhere, because they just had no direction.
So I heard a rumor from, let's call it a friend, that was pretty high up at BioWare at the time of Anthem, working on Anthem. When EA came to BioWare, and they were like, we want you to stop making a new game outside of the IPs that you already have. So we don't want another Mass Effect. They believed Mass Effect was dead. They don't want another Dragon Age. They believed Dragon Age was dead. They were really looking for something new. And they said, look, we want a live service game. We want something that people will spend money on, that's going to have a cash shop, and it's going to be forever on. As soon as the high-level staff walked out of that meeting with EA, all of them were apparently very angry at the fact that they're being forced to make a game that none of them play. They don't play live service games. The people who worked for BioWare at the time were single-player only gamers. They love the things like Baldur's Gate that they used to do, the Dragon Ages, the Mass Effect, single-player, high story-driven games. That's what they loved making. And now they were forced to do this sort of live service game. And the problem was they pitched the idea of Anthem as being a single-player game. That was what it was going to be originally. Not in its final form. In its final form, it became obviously something else. But they had this idea of this unexplored planet that you have this suit of armor that you have to continuously upgrade, and it's going to have this entire story, open world. It was going to be their first ever try at a single-player open world game, like proper open world game. And EA went, yeah, that's great, but can we make that live service? And they were like, but this is literally not what we want to do. Like, what the fuck? We don't want to build live service games. We have no knowledge of how live service games are supposed to work. And EA brought in some of their live service gaming experts and just sort of went, yeah, there you go. These guys will tell you how to make a live service game. So you had people that were literally not passionate about the project, being forced to work on a project that they did not care about because they don't play those games. This is why I say you have to be a gamer in order to make.
You have to be passionate about what you are doing. So, like, for instance, this conversation that we're having would not be possible if both of us were not passionate about MMOs and stuff like that.
Oh yeah,
we like the flow of conversation. To give you guys an idea, right? We're gonna break the fourth wall here. To give you guys an idea, I have a couple of notes here of like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 topics. 6 topics. We haven't touched one.
Yeah. And last stream we managed. I think we touched 2.
I think we touched 2 on the last podcast. We touched 2 of them, so that was all right.
I mean, it would also, it wouldn't have worked if you and I sat down here.
Yeah, let's talk about we have to talk about this topic right now. It doesn't work. It's like we don't force it.
That's the thing. You have to be passionate about what you're actually discussing. So, for example, if you got me in to talk about Elden Ring and Monster Hunter, it would be sort of like, well, okay,
I'm going to get you into Monster Hunter. Don't you worry about that.
I'd be happy to explore the horizons.
Let me tell you about my other colleague and host of my other podcast, Gaijin Hunter. He is like the most OG Monster Hunter creator. He's done like a ton of guides and stuff back when the games came out in Japan earlier, right?
Uh-huh.
And I was telling him, dude, you got to try out Final Fantasy XIV. You're going to love it. You got to try it out. And he was like, nah, I don't play MMOs. I don't play those games, blah, blah, blah. I did this for like, I don't know, 5 podcasts. Every now and then I'd bring it up. And then eventually he promised me, fine, during Christmas, this was last year at Christmas, I'll play it. He is so addicted to 14 right now. It's on a different. He's done the whole story. He just recently leveled up all of the crafting professions and all of the gathering professions, and he's constantly addicted to it. Like I can barely get him into a podcast because he's just playing 14 now. So it's like when I'm telling you I'm going to get you into Monster Hunter, it might take a while. I'll get you there. Don't worry about it.
I'm open-minded when it comes to video games, right? I try to play whatever I can whenever I can. But my natural flow is sort of more towards massive story driven, you know, like anything Baldur's Gate, Dragon Age, Mass Effect, obviously Mass Effect, Witcher 3, games like this just
I'm telling
blow me
you,
away.
Shadowbringers is going to dumpster your thoughts on Witcher 3, dude. Shadowbringers is just going to dumpster Witcher 3 for you.
I mean, I'm going to be honest with you. I'm a CD Projekt Red fanboy. So, I mean, I'm sure they'll be sad to see me go. But if Shadowbringers is great, then...
they'll be sad, all right.
But no, yeah, I'm massively into story. So anything that gives me a story, even if it is like Elden Ring, where the story isn't in your face, it's more search for us. Because we are here. Our world is here, but we don't really have... Because I know in Dark Souls, there are characters that you can sort of interact with. They don't have massive lines of speech and dialogue, but there are characters. You do every once in a while see someone standing around that you can kind of click on. And I think during Asmongold's playthrough of Elden Ring, I saw him... speaking to someone and then start hitting the guy with a fucking halberd or some shit, because this guy has one of the most powerful weapons in the game.
At any point in time, you can just decide. I mean, in Elden Ring, not as much, because Elden Ring has these things that are safe areas because it's so open that they wanted to make sure, okay, we don't want you killing off these characters just yet. So there are some areas in which you actually can't kill them, but like in previous Dark Souls games, you could pretty much just go up to almost any character and kill them. Like in Dark Souls 2, you can straight up kill the character that helps you level up. You can go up to her and just be like, you know what? Fuck you. Boom. Done. Kill her. And then like they respawn her in spirit form and she's like, I'm still bound by or something like that, right? I'm still bound by duty to help you so that you can keep leveling up. But you can screw yourself over sometimes by killing the wrong NPC. Yeah. But they let you do it. They're like, hey, do what you want.
Have you ever played Divinity Original Sin?
I played Divinity Original Sin 2, and the way that I played it was amazing. It was me and 3 other friends, and we were just like going through, and I had never played the game before, so I was going in completely blind. My friends had played it, but we were making decisions based around, okay, we're going to do this now, we're going to do that now, and it was really interesting, almost like a Dungeons and Dragons thing.
So my cousin fucked his playthrough because he accidentally cast a spell on the NPC that's supposed to progress the story. And he killed the NPC as well as all of the NPC's friends. And then he's now just in this place where, well, there's literally no way to continue the story. Congratulations. You're fucked. I
love the detail where he didn't just kill the NPC, right? He killed all of his friends too.
For good measure. If there was someone else that could provide the story, they're dead now. Yeah. So he had to reload, right? Luckily, you do have load systems, but this is sort of what, again, it's another way of telling stories. It's another way of diving into stories. When we talk about World of Warcraft, you just mentioned something that's really important. With Final Fantasy XIV, the ability, like your friend, for example, that does the other podcast with you, that got addicted to FF14, it's so easy to get addicted to Final Fantasy XIV because there's something for everyone.
Yeah.
You just have to discover the thing for you. Maybe you don't like the raiding in FF14. Maybe you don't like Boja or Eureka. Maybe you don't give a fuck about the crafting. But maybe the deep dungeons really fucking get your blood boiling. Like this is what you need.
For some people, it's the gold saucer. Like to give you an idea, there are some people that pay a monthly fee to play Mahjong.
Jesus, I still don't understand Mahjong.
Yeah, I don't know how to play Mahjong either. But it's like apparently the game has such a good Mahjong interface that there are people just going there to matchmake against other players in Mahjong, and they just play Mahjong.
Dude, there's people who play Triple Triad.
Yes.
Like literally, that's all they do. They play Triple Triad. The only reason they've done the MSQ and do dungeons
is to get the cards.
Was to pick up Triple Triad cards so that they can go play Triple Triad. I almost lost myself in Chocobo racing, very similarly, because I couldn't stop playing it.
I'm not a big fan of chocobo racing because of the whole crossbreeding thing that you have to do. Like that, like doing the races themselves, I love it. But having to like min-max the chocobo, I'm like, I don't know about that.
I love it. I just kept racing. I haven't even gotten to the breeding part. I just kept racing. I just kept running. It took me almost 3 days of racing to realize that I can upgrade my fucking chocobo. I didn't know that I can upgrade my chocobo. I just realized that I could, and I was like, this makes sense. Because why is everyone faster than me? Like, what the fuck?
There's a legit, almost Dota-like thing that you can play, the Lords of Vermilion in there, that you can also lose yourself into as well.
Oh, shit.
Yeah, like the gold saucer is, it's a thing. It really weirds me out that, like, if you think, for instance, because the closest analogous thing to the golden saucer, right, is going to be the Dark Moon Fair. It's like Blizzard has a Dark Moon Fair like once every week, and they're like, not every week, like once every couple of months. Is it once a month?
Yeah. I think it's once a month. It might be once every 2 months.
See, we don't even know. Like, right, we don't even know. Square Enix just like, nah, dude, Gold Sauce is right there. Go do it whatever the hell you want. Who cares?
And it's a story that opens it up, by the way. It's like a small story. It's not a massive storyline, but there's a small story that opens up the Golden Saucer, and then once you're there, there's someone that shows you around to tell you what all the games are. And then it sort of goes, well, actually, we didn't show you all of the games. We only showed you, like, the main attractions. If you want all of the games, keep an eye on the announcers, because the announcers will yell out when there's things that you need to do, jumping puzzles and all the rest of it.
The Slice is Right, Air Force One, all of these different mini games that you can do while you're there.
Exactly. It's such an engaging place that a lot of people spend all their time there. People spend their time crafting. That's what the game is. And I sort of want that back in WoW. That feeling of
just being in the world.
What's over there?
Yeah.
Yeah. What's over there? Let's go check that out. Oh my God, look at this. I want to do this. If we could just get back to that in Dragonflight, if they could make the game, and I think they're doing that. The fact that there's no borrowed power system, the fact that it doesn't appear as if they're going to tie everything in the game to dragon riding. Because Ian have already said, the open world team are working on dragon riding things, right? So races and maybe maneuvers and stuff like that. But they're also going to work on jumping puzzles. And they're going to work on like exploration things, like mini games and stuff that you can do in the open world. My one issue, and what I really hope Blizzard will try to not do, is, open your map, that's where you can do this. Open your map, that's where you can do that. It's sort of like, wait, you have the dragon riding system now.
Explore.
How about you just let people ride their dragon? Where they land, there might be something.
Yep. Like we were talking about how go in any direction for like 30 or 40 seconds and you'll find something. And instead of having one big long chain, I mean, there can be one big long chain, right, that takes you through the whole zone. But it's like, besides that, have like optional chains off to the side that you can discover, and don't actually force it. That's the biggest thing. Don't force it on players, because the more you force it, the worse it's going to be, basically.
It's kind of like, as soon as you put everything on the map. So this is what I hate about the map and the treasures. So the map shows you exactly where the treasures are, right? It's kind of like, but am I then a treasure hunter? Because I'm not really a treasure hunter, right? I'm basically just running from point A to point B, picking up treasures. Treasures should not be on the map. And you even get fucking add-ons that will show you whether the treasure is up, down, active. How long ago was it active? Like, what do you have to do? Like, if you hover over the treasure, it will tell you jump up this side, this side, this side, this side, and then you get there.
There is just a problem with the community when it comes to that as well, which is like, yeah, sure, we won't put it in game, but it'll be in Wowhead. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. But this is sort of the endless battle.
Exactly. How do you figure that part out? Because how do
you stop guides?
That is the reason, and I think a lot of people don't understand, but that is the reason why vanilla was so popular. It was because it was this organic thing, like we were talking about, of the community finding things and discussing amongst themselves. Whereas now everything's just in Wowhead, hyper data mined, all this stuff.
Yeah,
and all the information
you know
is there
about
for
it
you to
before
pick
it
up.
even goes live.
Yeah,
You know about it before it even goes live.
that's
That
even the
actually
worst
brings
part.
us that actually brings us into a very interesting topic that we wanted to discuss. And this is actually where things like Wowhead actually makes a lot of sense. Mr. GM found a bug in patch 925 that allowed him to form a cross-faction guild. What are your thoughts on factions in World of Warcraft?
When it came to that, when they were talking about doing cross factions, I mean, first there's obviously the conclusion that I think everybody draws, which is numbers must be really bad if you're pulling this card. I mean, numbers have already been atrocious, but not only that, but obviously the alliance/horde balance was even worse, made everything way worse. Because to give an idea, like my good friend that I would play World of Warcraft all the time with, he was also my raid leader. Like we were both alliance. I mean, I guess he's horde now. I don't know, but we used to mostly play alliance, and both of us loved doing Mythic Plus. So we'd be going through and doing Mythic Plus stuff all the time. And he was telling me that after I quit Shadowlands, that he basically made an alt for Horde. And he was telling me like, okay, so you know how when we were, searching for Mythic Plus things in the group finder to find people for, you'd find maybe like 10 on the Alliance side. He was like, on the Horde side, it's 10 pages. And I was like, so bad. So it's like you have the problem with that, which naturally makes it so that if anyone that wants to play the game on any serious level, that wants to engage in raiding and Mythic Plus, you basically have to play Horde. Let's just put it all out there. You have to play Horde. There's no choice. Yeah. So when they talked about, we're going to let cross-faction be a thing, I was like, thank God, because I want to play a dwarf, but I still want to do the content, right? So to me, that was a good thing. But when I heard the news, I was like, okay, so let's get into the details. And I go and I read it, and they're like, no cross-guild factions, no cross-faction guilds. And I'm like, why? That's the dumbest thing. That's, again, you're half-assing it. Like, either do it proper or don't do it until you're ready. Like, oh no, we're going to do cross-faction. There's going to be all these limitations on it. It's like, no, either do it right or don't do it at all. It's like, come on.
So for me, like I told you yesterday as well during stream, I am a very old school sort of story-focused player. I understand why the factions existed. Yeah. I still hold that fuck the Alliance in my heart. Like if we went in and we burned down Stormwind, like basically crumbled Ironforge.
Hey, okay. Right? Now you're pushing it. Okay, you can burn down Storm. Hell, I celebrated when Sylvanas burned the tree. I was like, yeah, dude, they can get another tree, dude. There's plenty of trees in the forest. Get another one. I don't care. I never liked the elves anyway. I don't care that much about Stormwind either. But you can't bring down Ironforge. That's too far.
To be fair though, I'm Horde. To my core, I'm a Horde player. My friends once wanted to roll some Alliance players, some Alliance characters, because they wanted to check out the world of Alliance. And they all leveled all the way to max. I got to level 15. I was like, fuck this Alliance bullshit. I'm going back to Horde.
What race were you playing? Let's get to the bottom of this.
Worgen at the time.
Oh God,
Worgen was like new. And we all wanted to start in the same place. And so because most people wanted to be Worgen, we decided to be Worgen. I've never had a dwarf. I've never had a gnome character. I've never had a goblin
You should have had a dwarf, man. Dwarves are the best.
You see, I hate dwarfs. I hate gnomes. And I hate
Why are you
goblins.
like this? So racist. What is your main?
I don't like I also don't like Lalafal because they're small. I don't like small characters. But my main is Orc.
You filthy greenskin. You filthy fucking greenskin.
Bro, I'm an orc through and through. I
can't believe I'm doing a podcast with an orc. God damn it.
But my love affair with orcs started back in Warcraft 2. I just loved playing with the orcs in Warcraft 2, even in Warcraft 3.
Because they're not too smart.
My favorite.
Is that why you like them?
I love the peons. I specifically love the peons. Yeah, exactly. Work. Zug.
Something
I really enjoyed the peons. I loved. I don't know. I just love the aesthetic of the orcs really, really much.
They're big block. Like I think that there's a lot in common in terms of like the design of both dwarves and orcs, because they're both like stocky, except orcs are taller, obviously, and bulkier. But dwarves are basically just like stocky, big, muscly dudes. Well, not big, but you get the idea. They're concentrated. They're dense in the good way.
I mean, I don't mind the aesthetics of dwarfs. I do mind the aesthetics of goblins and sort of gnomes.
Yeah.
Like that, the gear just looks silly and stupid on them, in my opinion. Other people might feel differently. The thing that I sort of, to get back to the faction discussion.
Yes.
So I love the faction idea in World of Warcraft. The problem with factions is it interferes with gameplay. And at a fundamental level, one of the golden rules of gaming is never split your player base, because you have no guarantee that your player base is going to split 50-50. And if they don't split 50-50, so this killed multiple games in the past. Battlefield 3, for example, got slaughtered because as they brought out more DLCs, the player base got more and more fractured.
Yeah.
Yeah, because some people didn't buy the DLCs, some people didn't buy all the DLCs, and some people bought all the DLCs. So now you have this like entire player base split between some that can do only like the bare minimum maps, some that can do some of the maps but not all of the maps, and some that can do all of the maps.
And I think the biggest problem there is also the fact that when they started splitting player bases like that, particularly in Battlefield 3, it was like, okay, here's this map pack, that map pack. You're not even splitting it 2 ways. You're splitting it 50 ways in your urge to like monetize and squeeze as much money as possible out of people. Exactly. I think that the traditional expansion model that we used to have, so say like, for instance, StarCraft Brood War, Warcraft 3, and then the Frozen Throne, I think, was the next one.
Yeah.
Frozen Sodium Throne. But it's like, I think those traditional old school expansions were cool because you got more value. You usually a significant portion of the player base would purchase the expansion. It's like, listen, you have this and this. And this is something that one of the few games that is still doing that is actually Monster Hunter. And the way in which they do it is like, okay, here's what we call a G rank expansion. Harder monsters, harder everything, and usually more content than even the base game. Traditionally, yes. In a G rank expansion, there's traditionally more content than the base game. And the thing about it is they patch the base game in a way where, like, if I have the expansion and say like I have a ton of gear from the expansion, I can still go back and play with you. I'm probably going to slaughter anything you put in front of me, but I can still go back and play with you even though you didn't buy the expansion. And that's like a key aspect of when you move these things forward.
Exactly. But that's the thing, right? You don't want to split your player base, because splitting your player base almost always, inevitably, will lead to game death. Because the people who can't play because they can't get maps will just eventually quit. Even the people that bought the DLCs will quit because they constantly get old maps. They never get the new maps. So it's kind of like, I wasted my money on these new maps that I'm just never going to be able to play.
Or they'll quit because there's also a dwindling player base because of the other ones that are quitting.
Exactly. So now the player base goes down, things get even worse, and eventually the game dies. In World of Warcraft, the same is true. The factions, while story-wise made a lot of sense, gameplay-wise, you were always running this risk of your player base getting completely split. Yep. Now, Horde have always been more popular than Alliance, at least in Europe. In NA, I believe Alliance is actually more popular than Horde, or used to be more popular than Horde.
It's definitely not now.
I don't actually know what the numbers are in NA right now, but I know.
Did you remember that video where Asmongold was trying to do the latest raid and he couldn't even field the full raid?
Right? Yeah. So Alliance is even suffering there.
Yeah,
right?
Alliance is terrible right now. Everywhere.
Exactly. That's the problem, because now you have a bunch of people on Alliance that is having a miserable time playing the game because they have to wait 10 minutes, 20 minutes for a normal dungeon, if they even get a normal dungeon during their playthrough. And what happens there is, out of 10 people, 4 might just straight up quit because they don't want to spend money transferring to Horde because it is expensive. and they don't want to level a new character, and maybe they don't even want to play Horde, so they just straight up quit the game. So you're losing players as a result of this arbitrary sort of split that you've built into the game. So it makes sense for me. I can let my lore sort of objections go and be like, okay, fuck the factions. Let's get people to at least be able to play the game. Because if you're going to ask me what's more important, story, authenticity, or actually people playing the game, I'm always going to be like, people playing the game.
And
right?
if you look at it, it makes sense for there to be some alliance pockets, even from by alliance, I mean an alliance between the alliance and the Horde. It makes sense for there to be small pockets of people allied there, because there's always been some implicit cooperation between the two factions, whether it's Thrall and Jaina, whether it's like now and during the Shadowlands, it was also like Baine and Anduin, I think. There was some... No, it was the other orc. What's his
Battle
name?
for Azeroth, it was Sourfang and Anduin.
Sourfang and Anduin. And it's like there's always been, pockets of people. And like you could argue that the Taurens don't really want to hurt the Night Elves. Because they're just nature-loving people. Why would they want to hurt the Night Elves, right? It's like, who cares? Just like the Night Elves don't want to hurt the Taurens. They're just like...
Yeah.
So, yeah.
In fact, the thing that sort of bugged a lot of people, including myself, is why Baine even stuck with the Horde after Sylvanas burnt the tree.
Yeah.
You see, the thing is, the Taurens and the Night Elves are physically actually on the same side. Because both of them honor nature far more than what they honor their alliances. So, yes, the Tauren, remember, first and foremost, what people need to remember when it comes to the Horde, it is an alliance of convenience.
Yep.
It's an alliance of necessity, basically. They have to be allied because the alliance will fucking slaughter all of them if they stand alone. The alliance, on the other side, have a much closer alliance, right? So, humans and dwarfs, for example, have always been intertwined. The kingdoms have always basically been very interconnected with one another. The gnomes and the dwarfs very interconnected with one another. The only odd one out in the alliance really is the Night Elves. Yeah, because the Night Elves ultimately just joined the alliance because of the orcs. Right, and the Horde threat that they now face so close to their own borders. But the Horde literally just came together because, well, no one race can stand against the whole might of the Alliance. So coming together. Baine should have been the first one out the door. Baine should have been the one that just went, fuck this. Like, you just burnt the world tree? Like... You burnt a world fucking tree. This is Mother Earth we're talking about, and you just hurt Mother Earth. Fuck you, right? That should have been the Tauren stance from the beginning. Because, again, it made no sense that Baine sort of went along with us.
You want to know the Tauren stance in current World of Warcraft happenings? The current Tauren stance is sitting down.
I actually have a theory about that. A script that I finished writing yesterday, I should say, about the sitting down and sort of what if the sitting down was a choice and not just like they didn't know what to fucking do with the character.
You're giving them too much credit goes there.
To tracking his progress through the story. Like if you look at Baine during Battle for Azeroth, very angry. Very frustrated with Sylvanas, with what happened to Sourfang, with the overall Horde situation. And then you sort of look at him in Shadowlands and he almost looks defeated. He's like, his frustration have now set into this almost, well, what's the fucking point? So we might be building up to sort of Baine Endtime levels. I don't know if you ever did the Endtimes dungeon.
No. I mean, I might have done it, but I don't remember it. I don't know.
In the Endtimes dungeon, we see Deathwing dead atop Wormray Spire. We then go on to fight Baine, Tyrande, Sylvanas, Jaina, and then lastly Morozond, right? Or Nosdormu, the bronze dragon aspect. Baine in that fight is actually so overcome with rage that he views his allies as enemies. So his rage have completely blinded him. He just kills anyone he sees. And you sort of have to defeat him to open his eyes and let him realize that what the fuck is going on is actually wrong. Jaina, on the other hand, she is angry as well. She views us as agents of Deathwing, agents of the Void, agents of the enemy. Sylvanas somehow has the ability to raise the dead, which might hint at, even then, some kind of alliance between her and the creator of the Lich King. And then Tyrande is in darkness, like full darkness. You can see nothing during the fight. The room is completely dark. So Night Warrior kind of vibes that you get there. And of all of these prophecies, it's only the Baine one that have not yet come true. All of the other 3 prophecies have already come true. It's just the Baine one that has to come true. So there is an argument to be made there, but that's sort of a lore thing, and I realized that not everyone cares that much about the lore.
But no, me, I personally find that interesting, though. It could be the case. I still do feel that we are giving them maybe a little bit too much credit on that, but who knows? But ultimately, when it comes to the whole cross-faction guilds thing, it's like, I think it should just be a feature. It shouldn't be a bug. It should be a feature, period. It needs to be a feature, because if you want the community to move forward, at this point, with the numbers that World of Warcraft has, you're never going to get a balanced faction again. It's just never going to. And here's the thing, like, you've been on the Horde side, so you haven't experienced this, but like, I stopped playing during Cataclysm. I stopped playing. I didn't play Mists of Pandaria. And then I came back and I played a little bit of Legion, BFA, and Shadowlands. And during all of those times, which was all those years ago, there was already a faction imbalance. And I'm like at the time I was on the most popular, it was Silvermoon. I don't know if it still is or not. The most alliance populated server in the whole cluster in Europe, which was Silvermoon. And didn't matter. There was still not enough people. Like, you would have a very small pool of people to choose from when it came to raiding that weren't already taken.
I mean, at the time, one of the reasons so many people sort of shifted was most of the Horde races had all of the cool sort of racials for raiding, whereas a lot of the Alliance races had a lot of the cool racials for PvP. This was thanks to humans having every man for himself, which is basically a free fucking trinket, until Blizzard effectively said, well, actually, this is that shares a cooldown with your trinket. And then it still was really good because it meant that as a human, you could have both damage trinkets, and you already had every man for himself, so who gave a fuck, right?
Yeah.
And then ultimately Blizzard changed every man for himself. But this was sort of, so it was always naturally going to be, if you were a raider, you were going to have to go Horde, because that's where most hardcore raiders went to go play the game. Even Method eventually swapped from being Alliance to being Horde, purely because Horde races on average were about 2-3% stronger than Alliance races in terms of racials.
Balance of this game, Jesus Christ, dude.
I mean, even without the balance issues, the issue is, again, you have to hope that 50% of your players decide to go Alliance and 50% of your players decide to go Horde, right? So I agree with you. It shouldn't be a bug. It should be a feature. The reason Ian said that we don't have that yet is because, one, they're hesitant to just let factions go, because World of Warcraft have had factions for such a long time. But they did say that they're not taking it off the table. If people really want it, and the feedback says that people really want it, they will do it. But one of the reasons they haven't done it yet, and why it would take some time, is because the game is very much built around Horde v Alliance.
Yeah.
So they would have to change a lot of the back-end stuff in order to make that work. The fact that this glitch already exists kind of make me theorize, and this is sort of tinfoil hat, right?
But they're already working on it?
They're already working on it. They're already working on the back end to make sure that if it turns out that people love the cross-faction raiding and love the cross-faction parties, and people sort of go, wait, but I want to be able to guild up with people, that Blizzard can go, well, okay, never mind. Next month, we're releasing functionality for cross.
I definitely hope so, because it's like, it's just so much more, because a big portion of the game, it goes back to that whole thing about how, some people just raid log, but there are other people that like hanging out in the world. So say, for instance, I know for a fact that my friend, if we were to play World of Warcraft again, he's going to want to be Horde, because he's going to have access to those 10 pages of listings for Mythic Plus, which is much better than having to scrounge up somebody to be able to do a goddamn Mythic Plus. So he's going to want to have access to that. But I'm like, dude, listen, I've done so many sacrifices for World of Warcraft because I always want to play Protection Warrior and I can't, because it's just not viable most of the time. It's terrible overall tanks pretty much since vanilla. Right? Vanilla was, it's almost like we've been paying taxes for vanilla ever since vanilla ended. That's the Protection Warrior storyline. And then it's like, so I've had to make sacrifices, like, okay, so I'm going to have to play a paladin now. I'm going to have to play a monk now. I don't want to play a monk. I don't want to play a paladin. I want to play a warrior. The problem is Blizzard can't balance the game to save their lives. And it's like, on top of it, to be like, okay, so now I also have to look like, I don't like any of the Horde races. I don't like orcs. I don't like taurens. I've tried. I don't like them. I don't like the animations of them. I don't like the way the model looks. I don't even like humans or elves. I don't like almost any of the models in WoW.
You want to be a
for
dwarf.
My character. I just want to be a dwarf. That's it. I like Dark Iron dwarves. I can do those. It's like, it just has to be a dwarf, and it's like, so if we don't have the potential for guilding up or even partying up, so like say, oh, there's a world boss. Well, you can't party up with your friends because they're on the Horde and you're on the Alliance. I'm like, well, what's the point then? Come on.
Yeah. I mean, we've been working together for so long anyways, that, as you said, there's already that spirit of cooperation. We should be able to cooperate. And I do think, look, Blizzard, stop fighting the inevitable. This is sort of something that really pisses me off. Blizzard is so slow. And that's why I'm sort of thinking maybe this is already them doing the back-end stuff. Because historically, Blizzard have been so fucking slow at responding to what players want. Players will be like, oh, by the way, what we really want is Titan Forging and Wolf Forging out of the game. So then we go through this whole fucking, I think the first time Ian was asked about Titan Forging, Wolf Forging in World of Warcraft was during, I think Legion, like early Legion. Yeah, early Legion. Blizzard was asked about Titan Forging and Wolf Forging. And people were sort of saying it really makes gear feel less important. Because
it is.
You might get your best item,
but if
it doesn't Titan Forge to the
it's
map,
useless. Yeah,
it doesn't feel good.
It can't even just be Warforged. It has to be Titan Forge, because like Warforged is almost worse than just getting it normal, because you're like, so you upgraded and you didn't upgrade to the maximum, you worthless piece of loot. God damn.
Exactly, right? So it made gear feel just less impactful, less important to a lot of people. And what ends up happening is we go through this entire thing that every single Q&A Ian is asked about Titan Forging, Wolf Forging. They then go, we have no plans of removing Titan Forging, Wolf Forging from the game. And it's like, oh, you have no plans of removing it. Am I hearing no plans? And he's like, no plans. And then suddenly out of nowhere, they go, oh, by the way, there's no more Titan Forging, Wolf Forging. It's like, dude, why the fuck did we have to go through years of you going, we like the system, before you finally go, oh, never mind, we'll change the system. It's not an issue anymore for us.
And here's the thing. I feel like there's a very easy way to just straight up implement cross-faction guilds while at the same time retaining the Horde Alliance structure of the game itself if you want. And that is, you can have a cross-faction guild and then to just decide which faction is this guild majorly aligned with. And then it's like, for most of the people, it's probably going to end up being Horde anyway, but whatever. So let's say me as a dwarf, I join a Horde allied guild. And then at that point, it's just like my character, for all intents and purposes, becomes viewed as a mercenary for the Horde. That's it. And it's done.
I can agree with that. I would be 100% behind that, because as far as I'm concerned,
So like, for instance, I can no longer, maybe they would let me go to Ironforge as like a visitor, but like I can no longer go to Stormwind. For instance, you get to go to your capital city as like a neutral visitor, but that's it. Mm-hmm. It's like you can't go to any of the other Alliance cities because you're now a mercenary for the Horde or whatever, and boom, done. And problem solved. And you still have the faction, whatchamacallit, animosity, while at the same time having cross-faction guilds.
I would do it completely differently. I would go, no more factions. So when you start your character, you are just whatever the fuck your character needs to be, right? That's it. And then what I would like to see from Blizzard is basically saying, okay, you have your character, but then if you want a PvP, you make a choice. Because in order to keep in order to keep us strong, in order to make sure that we hone our skills, and we have these two teams that sort of hold war games against one another.
Yeah.
And during these war games, they will fight in different arenas. So you make your decision purely based on whichever team you want to join. And that team will have sort of cosmetic rewards based on the team that you chose. So if you're a Horde player, it also opens you up, right? Because now you could have horses on the Horde. You could have like horses on the Alliance, you can have wyverns on the Alliance, and you can have wyverns on the Horde. So it just allows you to basically create far more unique items that previously one would only have thought of as being something that the other faction would really have. Yeah. So wolves, for example, outside of I think one or two places on the Alliance side where you could get a wolf, wolves are everywhere on the Horde side. Well, you could now make it Horde and Alliance because these two factions aren't really tied to any race anymore. They're just tied. So you basically make it Elder versus Scryers. So you make the Horde v Alliance effectively the Elder versus the Scryers all the way back in TBC.
I mean, like I said,
simple, easy.
I am down for any of the solutions because ultimately, at this point, given the way in which the story has been going, is just extremely. Yeah. To me, it's even extremely hard to resonate with a lot of the stuff that's been happening within the story of World of Warcraft. Like pretty much ever since Warlords of Draenor and alternate timelines, and you can still go back and visit this alternative reality. It's like, oh my god, dude. It's like a multiverse right there. It's like all of this crazy stuff is happening at any given moment. It's freaking wild. So
it is.
There is something there's actually something that I've been thinking of in terms of story, but I can't bring it up on this podcast. I have to leave people with a tease on that one because I don't want to put that like again 90 minutes into the discussion. But there is something that I want to talk with you about with story. But since we're not going to get into that, let's talk about the narrative director. So Blizzard hired a narrative director. Tell me more about this because you've been following this a lot closer than me. I was like, they didn't have one before? Things make so much more sense now that there wasn't a goddamn narrative director. What the hell?
So the closest thing World of Warcraft has ever really had to a narrative director would have been Chris Mason. Yeah. Even though Chris Mason wasn't officially the narrative director, he was in charge of the narrative department, and that by just the design made him the narrative director. The issue that World of Warcraft sort of always have had is that it's this massive company, this massive corporation that had its start just a couple of friends in a basement, really.
Yeah.
Right? And so a lot of what they used to do back in the day was just sort of based on that, a couple of friends in a basement making video games. So you didn't need something like a narrative director.
Even though they were friggin' huge, it would always go back down to those friends basically getting together in a meeting, probably outside the company, even like on a informal dinner or whatever. And it's just like, by the way, Metzen, we're gonna need you to like get some of this stuff down. He's like, oh yeah, I'll work with my team. We'll get all that stuff down. Even though there's no official title, right? It's like whatever.
Yeah. They never needed it because everyone knew, as much as people hate Alex Afrasiabi, and I get that, he's also part of the old guard, right? So every single one of them understood the role that they were meant to play within the company, and they played that role to perfection as far as the game is concerned, not necessarily as far as cubicle crawls and shit is concerned. But then Chris Mason leaves, right? Alex Frisiabi leaves, obviously, as well. Now, Blizzard has a lead narrative producer, or a narrative lead, which is Steve Denuser. They also eventually promote him to executive narrative lead. That's still just a narrative lead, which means this is one of the guys that decides which stories go into the game and also writes a lot of the stories for the game. That's not a director.
So it's like, I'm not entirely sure what the director role entails, but my interpretation of it would be like, okay, so your narrative leads or your narrative writers or whatever the hell you want to call them, they write the story. The director needs to make sure that the story fits into the world and connects somehow with the gameplay that is being presented. He directs the story towards gameplay so that it makes sense.
Yeah. Effectively, what the director will do is, so, for example, the raid team, right, goes to the creative director. So creative director is the one that has to say, okay, the raids have to go there, there, and there. So the raiding team wants a raid, but in order for this raid to be pulled off, we need the art team to do a bunch of art. We need the story team to do a bunch of story, and we need the boss team to do a bunch of bosses, right?
The director brings it all together.
The creative director brings all of that together. But now the creative director goes to the narrative director, and he's like, okay, this is the raid that they want to make. They want 12 bosses. What are you guys going to do with that? The narrative director now goes to the narrative lead, and he's like, okay, they want 12 bosses in this raid. They sort of want the raid to be in this zone. So this is sort of where they want their first raid to be. But that can change depending on how you guys want the story to play out.
Yeah, you links.
The narrative team then writes the story for the raid based on where they think the raid should take place, based on where the story dictates the game should take place. And as those stories come in, the narrative lead, or the narrative director, now takes those stories and within his own department will move the stories to the WoW historians. And he'll be like, okay, does any of these stories betray some of our earlier works? So are we sort of doing things here that might be retcons of things previously? That's where the historians, and I know people don't believe this, but Blizzard does actually have historians. Sean Copeland is one of the historians. I've actually spoken to him before.
I just get reminded when we think about whether or not things made sense is when Red Shirt Guy goes up to Metzen and asks him something about Falstad. Metzen just goes, "Isn't Falstad dead?" And then Red Shirt Guy goes like, "No, he survived." So it's like he's being corrected by a member of the
yeah, I mean, it's
he
one
actually
of the most
survived
famous clips,
in this
right?
in this book that you guys wrote. He survived. What are you talking
exactly. But the thing is, this is where Chris Mason was the narrative director. He wasn't the historian.
Yeah,
it's the historian that keeps track of all of the histories of World of Warcraft. And believe me, I've spoken to one of the historians at Blizzard. They know their shit. Like, these guys aren't just there for fucking window dressing. They know what the fuck they're doing. The problem is, if you don't have a narrative director, a lot of the time the lore that does come out isn't really necessarily even vetted by the historians, because the writers think they have the story down. So they're just pushing the story to the creative director that pushes it towards the game designers. And ultimately, none of this really makes sense. So this is where your director sort of comes in and directs the flow of the story. So the director's job is to be like, okay, you guys have just brought me this story, and it's great. You want to burn down the tree. But you also
how are the
have
Taurans going to feel about this?
Where you want Sylvanas to turn against Suval and ultimately help the Horde and the Alliance to defeat Suval. Well, your burning of the tree is not going to fucking work if that is where you want Sylvanas to be. Right? So that's where a narrative director comes in and says, yeah, this is not going to work.
I kind of feel like even just the regular writers should be able to tell that the story's not going to make any goddamn sense. I mean, look at the arc we're creating for Sylvanas. Like, well, what are we doing here?
But you see, the problem is, if you just have a bunch of writers, they're obviously working on more things than just one at a time.
They're also working on
so he'll be writing
stuff
a
like
little
that.
bit of the Sylvanas burning the tree, a little bit of this dungeon, a little bit of that. So they're writing all over the place.
And then there's the timing as well with, because Activision Blizzard's no longer, it comes out when it's ready. That's hasn't been the motto for a while now, let's be real.
For a long time, that's not been the model, right? But now you also have a lead writer, like, for example, Steve Denuser, having to take on extra responsibilities because he now has to go to the creative director, meet with the creative director to make sure that all of this shit is taking place the way that it should be, whilst also writing a lot of the stories, right? So everything just sort of gets messed up. Most importantly, more often than not, the writers might not even have a future story in mind. Yeah. They're so busy and so overworked just getting the current story out that they haven't even started really planning what 5 years or 6 years or 10 years from now is going to look like. This is where a narrative director will say to Steve Denuser, right, what is the 10-year plan? I need a write-up, 2 or 3 pages, of what the 10-year blueprint of World of Warcraft looks like.
A brief summary of where we're going to be going to next.
Exactly.
So that it makes sense.
If I was the narrative director for World of Warcraft, I would do that because I need it in order to do my job.
Yeah.
I don't know where you want to go with the story, I can't direct the story towards that point.
Because it doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Like, so we're going from Sargeras stabbing the earth to going to these islands somewhere, and then we're going to go to the realm of death. Oh, okay, that makes perfect sense. Sure.
See, as a writer, that doesn't matter, right? You don't need to know what lies 10 years into the future as a writer. Because you can write really cool stories right now. And you can have a loose idea of where you want to be in the future. But if you don't necessarily as a writer need a blueprint of where you want the story to go. Especially with how World of Warcraft story is written, right? So World of Warcraft story is always very episodic.
How World of Warcraft story should be written, which is, again, more focus on the world, less focus on the main plot, so to speak.
Yeah, but I mean, World of Warcraft story has always been more episodic. It's very much episode after episode, and episodes aren't always necessarily closely related. They all fall into the same universe, but they're much more reminiscent of Baldur's Gate, right? The Baldur's Gate universe. Because within Baldur's Gate, or within that universe, you have Neverwinter Nights, you have Baldur's Gate, you have, what's the other one?
I mean, if you're talking about Dungeons and Dragons, there's plenty more. There's Pathfinder, I think, right? Pathfinder's also D&D.
Is Pathfinder D&D? I don't even know if Pathfinder is D&D. I'm just talking Icewind Dale is the other one, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah. So just those 3 all take place in technically the same world.
Forsaken Realms as well, right? Isn't it?
I think Forsaken Realms also falls into that.
Yeah. There's just tons of it. Yeah.
Yeah. So the fact of the matter is, all of those are episodes. The games have really nothing to do with one another. Individually, the games shape the world.
You could look at Classic that way as well. Like, here's Blackwing Lair. Here's Molten Core. I mean, Molten Core and Blackwing, I think those are connected. But you get the idea. There's
similar enough. Yeah.
You get Naxxramas. It's like Naxxramas. What? Black Lair, Naxxramas. Nothing.
But that's the thing, right? Yeah. It was never built to be this grand story that needs to play itself out. Yes, it had a loose connection insofar as every single expansion would have an effect on the universe of World of Warcraft. But every single expansion was sort of its own self-contained little story within the universe of World of Warcraft. And historically, Blizzard have never been really shy of retconning. Old Blizzard reminds me very much of Warhammer in that regard, where Warhammer will literally just retcon shit for the fun of it. They'll just be like, yeah, well, fuck this. We don't like this. We're changing it. And then all Warhammer players are just like, oh, okay, never mind. We're changing this. And that's sort of one of the ways to do retcons, right? Is just to be unapologetic about your retcons. You're like, yeah, we thought of something cooler. We're going with that. This is sort of only the last, and you kind of made this point in the beginning of the stream, or of the video, of the podcast, where you said
one of those things.
It's one of those things, I promise, guys. But you kind of made this point where you said it's sort of the last few years feels like Blizzard have been hunting to be more like Final Fantasy.
Yeah.
Without really being Final Fantasy, but trying to be Final Fantasy. Where Final Fantasy really is a
they go for it. They go all the way.
It's
like you said, like we will serve you a 1 hour straight of cutscenes, and if you don't like that, that's too bad, because that's what we're doing. We're unapologetic about it, and that's where I feel Blizzard needs to be, is unapologetic, but about something that's good. Because right now they're unapologetic about forcing you to do dailies in the Maw. And it's like, well, I don't want you to be unapologetic about that. You should be more than apologetic about that, because that was boring. That was terrible.
Yep.
So I heard Korthia was pretty much the same. It was completely atrocious, according to what most people tell me. I didn't do it. I was like, screw that.
I did a little bit of Korthia. Actually, I say a little bit. I did about 3 weeks worth of farming in Korthia.
Diligent
the only
farming.
thing that I think Korthia was fine-ish. Because it was mindless.
That's a good seal of approval. It was fine-ish.
The issue with Korthia is that it sort of serves what have now to me become synonymous with World of Warcraft gameplay, insofar as its second monitor content.
Yeah.
It's the kind of content, and even though you'll have that on your main content, screen, you can focus more on whatever the fuck is on your second
But
screen.
it was my understanding that you kind of needed Korthia to do the other portions, like of raiding and Mythic Plus. You kind of needed to do Korthia to keep up with the power of your character, right?
Yeah.
Therein lies the problem. They're forcing you to do it. Like, for instance, again, bringing up 14 examples, you want to go to Eureka? Eureka's a completely separate system, completely different power structure, gives you actually no power, but there's still people doing it. And you're like, well, what is their motivation? Well, like in my case, I was curious to see the content, and I figured while I'm here, I'm going to get a relic weapon, which is basically like a transmog for your weapon, because relic weapons from previous expansions don't really matter. They don't give you any power gain whatsoever. It's just a status symbol. Like, oh, I did this grind. I have this glowy weapon. There you go. Boom, done. And that's more of what we need in WoW, is like optional things to do. And I feel like World of Warcraft has such a breadth of content, because most people, when they play WoW, they'll get in there and it's like, okay, last expansion, that's literally the only thing that matters. Everything else might as well be deleted from the game. That's the way it goes. And it's like the breadth of content in World of Warcraft, that if they respected that content, the breadth of content they would have access to, if they were willing to like use features like syncing, which they tried stealing from 14 and completely messed it up, because like, I want to do this content synced. Good. Get a friend that's low level, join him in a party, and then you can sync down. I was like, why? Just let me go in there, hit a sync button or something, and now I can do this content the way that it was supposed to be done. And it would be way more enjoyable. And there's millions upon millions of things that they could do to bring people into the old world, so that it's not like, no, everybody needs to be running laps on Ouroboros. The other day I saw a tweet from the World of Warcraft account. What is the correct way to run laps on Ouroboros? Is it clockwise or counterclockwise? And I'm like, that's really fucking funny, isn't it? You guys are, you're like a pig rolling over in shit, and you're just like smiling about it with shit coming off of your teeth. You're just like, look at how funny our shit is, running clockwise around Ouroboros. It's so funny. It's not funny at all. It's like, you're laughing at your own inadequacies. Like, what the fuck?
At least they're poking fun at themselves, which is more than what we can say for the past fucking Twitter accounts of Blizzard Entertainment.
Yeah, I guess.
Like, in the past, the Blizzard Entertainment like Twitter account tried to be so fucking corporate that no one gave a fuck about what they tweeted.
Now, listen, we need to talk about the what's it called? The diversity chart. Yeah, that's what. Fucking diversity. Actually, dude, let me type that down for a future podcast. Talk about the diversity chart.
I don't know if Blizzard. I don't know if Blizzard can salvage it. It seems like they're on the right track. The issue I do apologize, guys. There's horrible ventilation here, which is why I'm yawning the whole time. I forgot to open the windows when I sat down this morning. So I will get to that at some point. But yeah, so the issue that I have is, we spoke about this earlier in the podcast. If you don't play your own games, if you don't play video games in general, are you still able to make a good game? And I do not think that the majority of World of Warcraft developers actually play World of Warcraft. I genuinely don't believe that.
Which is supported by, I don't remember where I've seen this, but I've seen someone who knows talk about this, about the whole thing where Blizzard can't field like a raid team to test their own raids, which is why they put stuff in the PTR and they just have players tested for them. Like, I don't know if you know, but for instance, 14, the Ultimate does not come out until it's cleared internally by the team of developers. They do not put out a raid that they cannot clear. Yeah. Whereas in Blizzard, they can't field a 20-person raiding team. How's that possible? You're literally developing this video game. You can't field a 20-person raiding team? What are you doing?
Dude, because all they do, and this is sort of the downside of being a massive conglomerate. When you have, so here's something that people don't even know. CD Projekt Red, also a publicly listed company, but they have a rule. The only way you can own shares in CD Projekt Red, so be one of the named shareholders, so people that actually get to make decisions, is if you're a gamer. They don't allow non-gamers on their board of their shareholders and their board of directors are all gamers. They don't allow non-gamers to sit on the board of directors.
How do they determine who is a gamer?
Well, they sort of, I think there's like a questionnaire, a discussion that happens.
A gamer
if you
quiz?
Want to be a director. something to that effect. But there is sort of like, there's a discussion. So obviously every single board of director member, sort of goes through an interview process before they give you the right to sit on the board of directors. And the only reason they want to do this, so first and foremost, CD Projekt, which is the big company, they obviously don't give that much of a fuck, right? Because they don't just do gaming. In fact, gaming is one of their smallest revenue streams. So they sort of give CD Projekt Red a lot of freedom to basically do whatever the fuck they want, which is why they can get away with releasing games with no cash shop, only single player, and like nothing else, right? There's no real paid DLCs except for the expansions that they bring out. And that's sort of why they get away with that, because they don't have to make that much money for CD Projekt, because CD Projekt has like every single government contract from Poland and all that shit. But their board of directors, so specifically CD Projekt Red, the gaming element, they vet their directors to make sure that these are gamers and they understand how gamers think. After the fuck up that was Cyberpunk 2077, they profusely apologized for what they did and how it happened. And yeah, there was the old corporate speak bullshit that you always sort of get from companies like this, but at least there was an apology. World of Warcraft, when you get this big, when you reach Blizzard's size, you need thousands of developers, and you more often than not need them quickly. So there's no way for you to say, well, actually, I don't want you because you don't actually play our games. You take anyone that meets the minimum requirements of what you need in order to fill this position. And there are a lot of people that go into video game design who don't play video games. They just know there's a lot of money to be made there.
Yeah.
And that's why they go into it. The best example I have of this is one of the most vocal critics of Blizzard Entertainment during the whole lawsuit era of Blizzard was this girl called Jess something. She was like on Bobby Kotick's ass and fucking constantly every day tweeting and making this whole thing about herself. Yeah. She left Blizzard to take a job at a banking company, like at a financial banking institution thing. And I just thought to myself, very few game developers that actually love game development will take a job at a financial institution. Like, can you think of a more boring place for a gamer to work at. Like
No.
a person that is an artist that wants to make video games for a living, they're not going to work there. They're going to be like, oh my God, no. I want to make video games, That's what I want to make. And I have a friend that works for, I'm not allowed to say which company she works for, but I know the reasons why she left Blizzard Entertainment, and I can tell you, she left Blizzard to go work at this new company because, in her own words, she wanted to get back to actually just making video games.
Damn.
Yeah.
It tells you a lot about the current environment at Blizzard. And it's been something that I've been thinking about a lot recently. And that is, like, I've talked a lot about Blizzard. And the reason I do it is because I'm passionate. A lot of people think that, oh, no, you're hating on Blizzard for the money and stuff like that. It's like, I want nothing more than Blizzard to eventually turn around. Specifically because, I've waited decades for them to remaster a very specific game that was one of my favorite games of all time, which was Diablo 2. And then they released Diablo 2 right around the same time that there was all the controversy around the people.
Yeah.
And my way of making a statement was, like I said, I'm not going to play Diablo 2 until Blizzard gets their stuff together. And I still haven't played Diablo 2 Remastered, and I want to play it so goddamn bad because I love that game. I already know that game is amazing, and I really want to do it, right? So I've been thinking a lot about this whole situation that is happening with Blizzard, and I'm like, how can you get to a path of redemption? Is there a way? Because whenever people talk about the Blizzard situation, one of the comments that I receive a lot is everybody telling me, well, the old Blizzard's not there anymore. It's not Blizzard anymore. It's just a bunch of other people. And, in a certain way, they're right. There's a lot of people from old Blizzard that are not there. Chris Metzen, etc. There's tons of people that have since left the company. But it makes you wonder, so what happens to this IP? Is it just doomed to be a failure forever? Is there just like no hope absolutely ever? Or can there ever be a path to redemption? Because when you start thinking about it like that, then you can also start pointing at other companies and you can start going like, well, what's going to happen when this person leaves? Like you can point at Creative Business 3 and think, well, what happens when Yoshida leaves? Yeah, I guess this is his life's work, but he's not going to live forever. Eventually he's going to retire. What's going to happen to From Software when Miyazaki leaves? Hidetaka Miyazaki's I was going to say the brains, but it's like he's the main guy behind essentially the creation of the Souls franchise. Because in case you didn't know, like super quick trivia, is like the only reason Souls franchise even exists is because From Software was working on the game for which they had absolutely no faith. Nobody wanted to work on that game. That game was called Demon Souls. And so Miyazaki, being like an entry-level programmer or something like that, who came into the industry super late, he's just like, okay, nobody wants to work on this. Can I have it? Can I direct this? Can I figure this out? There's like, whatever, put the new guy on it. Who cares? Most successful thing ever, right? But what happens to that company when Miyazaki leaves? Because we had a taste of that with Dark Souls 2, which if you go back and you hear people talk about it, everybody will tell you it's the worst Souls game, right? Which in my opinion is still not a bad game. It's just the worst one of that franchise. Still a good game overall. But like, what happens to these franchises when these people leave? What happens to Monster Hunter when Ryozu, who's the guy behind Monster Hunter, kind of leaves? Yeah. Like, are we just like condemned? That's it? There's no path for redemption for all of these beloved IPs? Like, this is why a lot of people, they ask me, they're like, Rurikhan, why do you keep doing this? Old Blizzard's not there. It's like, I have to believe there's a path of redemption for some of these IPs, because otherwise, a couple of years from now, there's going to be nothing. Like, there needs to be some path forward where there needs to be a new creative team. And that's why I keep up with it. And I want it to eventually get better, but it hasn't up until this point. Is Dragonflight going to be the one? I don't know. I doubt it, but who the fuck knows?
The thing is, okay, so you have to hope that Yoshi P placed
successor
culture
placed culture
at the forefront of everything that he did for creative what's it called, the Creative Business Unit 3, I think.
Creative Business Unit 3.
Creative Business Unit 3. That he installed a culture within that business unit that even when he leaves, whoever takes over comes from within that culture and then preserves that culture within Creative Business Unit 3. Now, the fun thing about this is that Square Enix isn't going to fucking touch the Final Fantasy franchise. They know that this is their bread and butter. They fuck this, they fuck themselves. Especially now that they've
sold everything else.
All of their other fucking IPs to go into NFTs for some stupid fucking reason. But, they're not going to do anything to sort of compromise what FF14 is and also what Final Fantasy in general is. So we know that Final Fantasy 16 is also a Yoshi P developer.
Dude, I can't wait for that game.
I'm really looking forward to it myself. So you have to hope that there is a culture within From Software where once that person leaves, everyone else still has that culture. The issue with a company like Blizzard and EA.
That's the problem right there. Because like when Miyazaki didn't even leave, he was just simply less involved. We got Dark Souls 2. That's the problem.
So the reason I would say, because since then, you've got Dark Souls 3.
Yeah.
You had
Bloodborne,
Elden Ring now.
Elden Ring,
right? Bloodborne
Sekiro.
Is Sekiro. You had a bunch of new games that is actually very good and brilliant. So it had time to sort of, there has been enough time now that culture has now fully developed within the company. People think this way. And what happens is when new people come in, they automatically start thinking the same way.
So that makes me question then, how do we get to the point where we're at with Blizzard where clearly that culture is not there?
Too fast. So Blizzard went on, if you followed Blizzard for a long enough time, you will know around the end of Cataclysm, Blizzard started hiring shit tons of developers because Activision's model for success is more developers more quickly, more content more quickly. So if you can throw more developers on the content will come out faster. So Activision sort of makes no gripes about the fact that they want to double the amount of developers that work on World of Warcraft. So what happens there is sort of we can borrow from real-world politics or the real-world scenario here. Immigration, I think most people would agree, is a net benefit to the country that gets immigrants. The issue is when you get too many immigrants too quickly, because assimilation does not happen unless the host nation has time to assimilate and integrate the new the new arrivals, so that they can think the way that the host nation thinks about things, so we can agree on things at the same rate. So the sad part is, like the immigration crisis that Europe had a couple of years ago, when you go to Germany, there's still immigration camps where Germany keeps the immigrants locked up. Why? Because there's too many immigrants. If they just release all of the immigrants into the base population, you're going to end up with chaos. Because you have people that think one way about the world, you have people that think another way about the world, and these people don't necessarily agree about how to think about the world. And if you do it too fast, what ends up happening is society crumbles. So what you want to do is you want to do it slowly, trickling over time. So slowly but surely, you introduce a couple of 100,000 immigrants per year, allow enough time for the base population to integrate the new immigrants, and then more immigrants come. And now the immigrants are also helping to integrate the new immigrants, right? Because those immigrants will be much closer to the new immigrants arriving because they're also fairly new still. So they can help integrate. The same works on a company level. If you have 2,000 developers and you bring in 2,000 developers, what chance do the 2,000 developers that is already there have of integrating the 2,000 new developers into their way of thinking?
Yeah.
Because these new developers have their own way of thinking, and it might not be the same as these developers. But if you have 2,000 base developers, that's core, they all have the same culture, and you bring in 200, well, the 200 have to conform to whatever the 2,000 agree upon, right? Because the 2,000 is already there. They're friends. They all agree on the same shit. Blizzard just threw problems, and then Blizzard sort of backtracked, because at some point Blizzard had over 5,000 developers, and they realized that nothing is getting done. This was still under Mike Morhaime.
Because it's
nothing was getting
too many
done.
people, yeah.
Too many people.
Too many cooks
and then
in
Blizzard,
the kitchen.
Exactly. Then Blizzard started downsizing again because too many people were not actually leading to... It was inefficient in terms of game design. And then when Activision finally took over, they again went with this, just more developers. That'll fix the problem.
It's like back and forth and back and forth and back and forth, and now you have a serious culture problem over at Blizzard.
Yeah.
It's like this problem reminds me of, back when I started cooking like a long, long time ago, my mother would taught me the basics. And then, I think this happens to a lot of people when they cook, which is like you look at a recipe book and the recipe will say, heat this at 200 degrees for this amount of minutes. You're like, well... what if we just up the temperature, it'll be faster. Like, that was me cooking salmon for the first time. Just put this bitch at max, slap the salmon in there, and now you have, the sole of a shoe that you can go eat. Have fun. Yeah. It's like, and it's raw on the inside, by the way, because just like burnt on the outside and raw on the inside. And that's kind of like essentially what you're getting with Blizzard, with the way that they tried solving these problems by constantly just like throwing people in there. Just throw more people at the problem. More content will come out for sure. And then the content is raw and burnt at the same time, is both charred and raw, just like the first salmon that I tried cooking.
And also you have developers that have never played a World of Warcraft game or a Blizzard game for that matter.
Yeah.
They don't care at all about what the game is.
That's the problem.
Like.
You need to care.
Because, well, as far as these developers are concerned, as long as there's activities, what does it matter? There's stuff for you to do, just fucking do them. Most of what Blizzard does these days are also very much sort of built around psychological data. So they go for whatever gets people addicted. We know, for example, and this is well studied, one of the best ways to get people addicted is to form a habit of something, right? Habits work best when you have lists or checklists of things that need to be done. So, for example, if you want to form a habit around cleaning your house, a good way to do that would to be make a checklist of kitchen counter, kitchen top, and then allow yourself to be able to tick those off. So once you clean the kitchen counter, you tick it off.
That one's done.
Eventually you get this sort of serotonin spike, this dopamine serotonin spike of being able to tick off all and see all of the tick boxes that you've done, right? And then if you do that long enough... As
content creators, like for us, it's, did I make a video today? Hells yeah, dude. Check that list.
Oh, yeah. It feels so good.
It feels amazing. Every time that you
finally make the video.
You make the video, it's like, yes, dude. Like when I finish recording this fun is like, yes, podcast done. Big drop of dopamine right there.
Exactly, right? And we love that. Humans live for that shit. We really respond very positively towards checklists. Game developers, specifically game developers that sort of paint by numbers, have realized this and have said, okay, well, what about if we have checklists in our game? So every day you log in, you have to do 4 emissary quests. Then you have to do your Torghast. Then you have to do your more dailies. Then you have to do your dungeons. Then you have to do your raid. Maybe you have to do your battlegrounds. You have to do some quests. You have to do this. You have to do that. So we give you a bunch of lists of things to do. And as you continue doing them, you tick them off. Right? Yeah. In your mind, you're ticking off this list of chores. Eventually, you get addicted to it. So now you don't even need the list of chores. You just do this because that's what you do.
Here's the interesting thing. I don't think there's necessarily anything wrong with lists of chores. I think that there is definitely something wrong with the degree of importance that they give to each of those lists. So it's like Torghast, that's mandatory if you want to do your legendary. You got to go do Torghast. Like the Maw dailies, that's mandatory if you want to be able to like eventually put the extra slots into your equipment or whatever the hell that was for. Which I never did. Like I did hours upon hours of Maw dailies and never even got to the point where I was able to put a socket in the goddamn item. So I never did it. But it's like, because if you look at 14, for instance, when you get into maintenance mode, you get the same list as like you can go do the raid. And if you do the raid, if you do the 4th raid, you get a sword token, which in 5 weeks or whatever, you get to buy a brand new item level 590 weapon. Great.
Yep.
Or, there's 450 tomes that you can collect. And, you want to do those because you can only collect 450 a week. There's lists like that in 14 as well. The thing is the degree of importance, which is like, they're very important on like maybe the first couple of weeks for you to gear up.
Yeah.
And then they're not. Like, I'm still doing it. Every week I go and I kept my tomestones for two reasons. One, it's easy. Two, it's fun. Actually, I should say three. Three, because I don't have to. I do it because I don't have to. Like, if I don't feel like doing it, I really don't have to. And that makes me feel good about it. Whereas, for instance, in WoW, it's like, well, if I don't do this, I'm going to be like 3 weeks behind when it comes to getting my socket or getting my legendary or whatever. Yep. Whereas in 14, like at this point, I don't have to do any of the tasks. Sometimes I even don't do them. I'm just like, oh, this week I'm just not going to do it. I'm just going to raid if I feel like it or not, whatever. Maybe I'll just do Eureka. Doesn't matter.
But you see, this is where you just touched on the difference. Humans will always make their own lists. Whether you want them to or not, they will make their own lists. To this day, whenever I play Mass Effect. So as soon as I finish a mission in Mass Effect, and by the way, this is a single player game. Yeah. There is no real lists that you can make. But as soon as I finish doing...
You're going to go talk to every companion. Yep.
Every single one of my companions is going to be spoken to. I'm going to run and I'm going to feed my fish as soon as I've spoken to all of the companions.
Those fish are dead, dude. They died.
I managed to do an entire playthrough with all of my fish still alive.
No, they're dead. I got there one day. This was the last time I played. I got there one day and they're just like floating belly up and I'm like, yeah, they're gone.
You also, if you play as female shape, I don't know if male shape has this, but if you play as female shape, if you start a relationship with...
you can do it with male shep. People told me I could do it with male shep as well.
Yeah, you start a relationship with your first officer.
Yeah.
The girl that stands next to you.
She's the one who reads me my emails.
Yeah. And she feeds you your fish. She'll feed the fish for you. If you don't have... in Mass Effect 3, you can buy an actual feeder as well as a pump. So you don't have to keep feeding them. They'll just get fed every day anyways. But... so I have these checklists, and then I scan planets.
Yeah.
And then as soon as I've scanned about 5 to 10 planets, then I go on the next mission. So checklists is very important to human beings. The problem is when game companies start employing these checklists as a way to get people addicted. And the only way you can really do that is by making the checklists important. So in other words, you increase the importance of the number of the items on the checklist. Like, for example, you just said, Torghast has to be done if you want to tick off legendaries. So you sort of increase the importance of the checklist, but also the complexity of the checklist. So it's not just do this, done. It's do this, then do this, then do this, so that I can do this and say done.
Yeah.
Right? So I've basically built a flow chart out of the fucking checklist. And that's where things can sort of get really fucking wonky. And in my opinion, that's where we get into unethical game design.
Yeah,
because you're now building a game to get people addicted.
And it's like some people will get addicted and they will keep doing. There's some people that have been doing those chores since. Just think about it. There's actually players out there that have been doing those chores since the start of Shadowlands, and they still haven't stopped. Every week they go in there, they do their Torghast, they do their whatever, the Maw Daily's equivalent, which now is probably like, what's it called? Zereth Mortis, whatever. They're doing those every single week. They go in and they do their chores nonstop. And that's a problem. I feel like that's a problem because you're also going to have the players that are going to eventually see behind the curtain, or they just decide, okay, the amount of not fun things you want me to do towards the amount of fun things that I want to do is just not, it's messed up. Like, I don't want to do 20 hours of chores so that I can enjoy the 2 hours of Mythic Plus that I want to do a week. I don't want to do those 20 hours of chores so that I can enjoy the few raid nights that I have a week. I just want to do the fun part. I just want to do the raids, and I just want to do the Mythic Plus. And there's some people that are like, you just want all your stuff for free. You don't want to put in any work. It's like, yeah, no, I don't. It's a video game. You're right. Like, I'm willing to put in some grind, but I'm not willing to put in like a friggin' second job's amount of time in order to grind that stuff. You're crazy.
There's this, it's unscientific as fuck, but it is a test that you can do to see whether or not someone is addicted. Tell them to stop whatever it is that they're doing and see how they react as soon as you tell them to stop. And one of the things, for example, with smokers, if you tell a smoker to stop smoking, they'll instantly have like a bunch of excuses why they can't stop right now.
I can stop anytime I want.
I can stop anytime I want. Not right now, though, because right now I have a lot of stress, and my work is really busy. But as soon as those things are taken care of, then I can stop. Even if you say, well, I really enjoy WoW, if I told you to stop playing WoW for a week, and you tell me I really enjoy it, you are addicted.
Yep.
Because you may enjoy it, and you might be absolutely correct. You do enjoy it. But you still, if you're not addicted, you could stop. Just for a week, go do something else. Look at how people respond whenever you tell them seriously to quit WoW for a week. Just a week. Give it up. Go do something else. And you'll start seeing the people go, oh, yeah, but I'm so close to getting this, or I'm so close to doing that. As soon as I get that, maybe I'll stop. I would go so far as to say that I won't say the majority, but a very noticeable minority of players are playing World of Warcraft currently as things stand, not because they actively enjoy the game, but because they're addicted. And before you go, well, actually, I actively enjoy the game, I'm a smoker. If you ask me, do you enjoy smoking? I will say, yeah, I love smoking. If I'm honest, and this took a lot of thinking time for me, I hate the taste of cigarettes. They taste absolutely rancid.
Wow, I imagine they do. It's always confusing to me whenever I see somebody smoke. I'm just like, what do you get out of this? This is weird.
Dude, it is one of the most horrible tastes that you can ever have in your mouth.
Jesus.
Right? But you convince yourself that, nah, it's fine. It's not that bad. The smell is horrible.
Oh, yes.
You convince yourself it's not that fucking bad, right? It's actually inconvenient because most places you can't smoke, right?
And a lot of money.
It costs a shit ton of money. So you're basically, all smoking does is inconvenience your life in so many different ways. You tell yourself you like it, but when you really start thinking about it, you realize, well, actually, I don't know why I like this, because all the evidence suggests I should fucking hate this, and yet I'm still doing it. Why? Because I am fucking addicted to it. That's literally what it is. And my brain is telling me, you like this. Because if I didn't like it, if my brain said I didn't like this, I would be in trouble. Because I would be doing something that I actively loathe.
Yeah.
It's like, why aren't you hitting yourself in the nuts every day? Well, because you wouldn't enjoy that.
Some people do.
And that's why you're not doing it. Well, yeah, there's some kinks that people would probably hit themselves in the nuts for. But I'm talking most people that don't have that kink, right, would probably not do that every single day.
Oh, man. But that's actually a really good note to end on. Don't kick yourself in the balls every day, and don't do things that you don't think are fun. Ladies and gentlemen, that is going to be it for the second episode of the Frozen Sodium Throne. And by the way, we're going to make this available on Spotify and most major podcast outlets as soon as I get around to uploading that stuff and finding some art for us. But expect that also in an audio-only form. But if you guys enjoyed it, hit the like button. If you did not enjoy the dislike button, there's going to be links to Accolonn stuff in the description of this video. And ladies and gentlemen, we'll see you guys in the next one. Be strong, stay safe. Peace out.
Peace out.